Oh, everything should be in order. I'm gonna have some water and some coffee. And look forward to playing some more Shibuya Scramble. And, of course, nervously reload the tracking numbers of my packages for video games that release tomorrow. Betting a midnight stream on whether your physical copy will show up on time is a bold move. Right? It's not going to. I decided I'm going to bite the bullet. And silly though it might be. Also, hi. Hey, hope you're having a good day, Evie. I decided I'm going to just get it digitally so I have it on midnight so I can, join in on the fun of midnight release stuff. I've been looking forward to playing this for a while, so I am eager to get it down. Is it a silly expenditure? Yes. However, next question. Hiya. Hey, Henri. Hope you're having a good day. Talking about my poor life decisions here. Got like a Rolodex. You sleep for the midnight streams. Have fun with 3 hopes in advance. Oh, well, thank you. Every bit I've played of it so far has been incredibly fun. So I'm just really looking forward to more of the setting and characters, honestly. Three houses in particular stuck with me a lot after I finished all the routes and played it to death. So I'm glad to be back in the setting with the characters again. Now, my clock's, I don't know about you, but my clock says noon, so let's get this show on the road. Today, I'm going to finish up the rest of this 2 to 3 hour time block here. We haven't even touched Minorikawa's route on this part yet, so let's see. Why does he do, like, a fucking big punch? He's not Superman, he's a... No! Minorikawa's cry of despair echoed throughout the cafe. His laptop monitor stared back at him, black and empty. Don't you die on me, buddy! He jabbed his finger sharply at the screen. But the computer gave no response, looking well and truly dead. Look at that 2008-ass laptop. I love it. What the hell? Minorikawa pounded his fist on the table. This would be a worst-case scenario even if he weren't completely desperately pressed for time. Guess I'll just have to write by hand, then. He rummaged around inside his bag and pulled out a notebook. I can still do this, he shouted, doing his best to psych himself up for the task ahead. I will still do this. Excuse me, sir? The waitress appeared timidly beside him. What? Minorikawa snapped, his pen still flying across the paper. Sir, if you could please quiet down. My damn computer just broke. I'm allowed to scream or two. Okay, you know what? Actually, I'm okay with that as a rule. Like, if your computer or like phone or like important electronic device, I think you're allowed like one socially unreproachable scream, just like belt it out, and then like after any more than that, then you're pushing it. But like, I think you're allowed one. Minorikawa was in no state of mind to be quiet. If it weren't for the deadline he was racing to meet, he'd probably have gone on screaming until he passed out. Your computer is broken, you say? The waitress peered at the monitor. Yeah, look, it just suddenly stopped displaying anything. Could it be that, the battery is just dead? Minorikawa sat bolt upright. That is it! The waitress flinched as Minorikawa's finger jabbed toward her face. I hadn't considered that possibility. Hey, let me plug it in somewhere. There's an outlet right there, sir. She pointed at an outlet by Minorikawa's feet, making no attempt to hide her exasperation. Also, I've been doing this thing as we go further and further in this game. I've been paying attention to the particular settings where they shot for these, and in almost every instance, it's not like an actual like this isn't a cafe. This looks like the foyer for like a hotel or a building or something that they just pulled up a table into and like have just shot consistently from a particular angle to avoid showing anything else. And like you can see like the service desk in the back there, right? And that's not. He's got like one of like these hotel lamps at his table over here, and he's in the corner in front of like all of these air vents and stuff. Like this isn't a cafe. This is just they pulled up a table to the side of a building that let them shoot in it, and then got the shot here. Minorikawa plugged in the power cable, and the monitor sprang to life as normal. So, now that that's sorted, would you please be quiet, sir? Don't talk to me. You're interfering with my writing. Minorikawa's fingers had already begun dancing across his keyboard. With a sigh, the waitress disappeared back into the kitchen. Oh yeah, now we're talking. His fingers picked up speed as he went about touch typing. The act touch typing, if you didn't know, is the act of typing at a keyboard without looking at the keys. The aspiration of computer novices everywhere. The typical method involves placing the index fingers on the F and J keys, with the middle ring and pinky fingers resting on the A, S, D, and S and D, or K, L, and semicolon keys to either side, from which all other keys are easily reached. With practice, a touch typist can instinctively hit the correct key every time without looking. Yeah, that's about... I mean, like, if you just around computers enough, you kind of get to that point. I don't think I could, like, just cold hit a key at random and like some of the weirder keys in the top row and stuff, but, like, I don't look when I type. So, that's about right. The pros and cons of surveillance cameras. Proprietor of outdated electronics shop oversees high-tech camera system. Bedlam at bogus weight loss drink sales demo. Bankrupted organizer remains undiscouraged. Now Minorikawa's spirits were riding high. His writing rolled along at a brisk pace. Sir. It was the waitress again, her voice yanking Minorikawa right out of his soaring mood. Sir! Now what? Has the President of the United States agreed to give me a one-on-one interview? The waitress's eyes went wide with confusion. Huh? Because unless it's something that important, do not speak to me right now. But she was undeterred. Sir, if you could just be a little quieter. Minorikawa's fingers ceased their rattling across the keys. Just what sound do you have a problem with? All I've been doing is writing a copy. Well, for the last while, actually, you've been talking while you write, sir. Talking? Minorikawa tilted his head in confusion. Yeah, sir, you've been talking about an electronics store and some bogus weight loss drink? I assume that's what you're writing about. Oh, you're saying I've been narrating my copy aloud while I've been writing it. That's right, sir. Other customers sitting nearby were openly snickering. Oh, wait, that is just a big cafe. That does look like an actual cafe, huh? Then why were they cropping the shots so carefully not to show the rest of it? Huh. I take it back. Maybe not a cafe, but like a hotel. Maybe this is like a hotel, like a dining area. Because like the chairs and stuff are too nice for just a random cafe. Well, so what? He snapped. He was red in the face now. You should all be delighted that you get to hear what I'm writing before the magazine goes to print. Well, actually, sir, one of our customers has been complaining. Complaining? Of all the nerve! Who was it? Where are they? Minorikawa scanned the other patrons, many of whom were unsuccessfully trying to hide their laughter. It was me. It was the grumpy older fellow who'd been making a scene earlier. Bogus diet fads, peeping security cameras, reminds me of that sleazy tabloid 4-star general gossip I hate so much. Ho ho ho! You sure seem to know a lot about it for something you hate so much. The man's face twisted up with scorn. Your behavior is bothering everyone in here, he said. Do you not understand that? No, I don't. Guess a reporter who writes nothing but nonsense prefers nonsense in everything he does. Savage! Wow. Actual, like, legit burn right there. Minorikawa could feel his blood boiling. What was that? Go on, say that again. Oh, gladly. Nonsense, filth, cod swallop, absolute flim-flam. You bastard! How dare you? Minorikawa stormed over to the man's table. Flim-flam indeed. Flim-flam, if you didn't know, means bogus or insincere content. Few things anger Minorikawa more than reporters using dishonest means to create a story. Having his own work called flim-flam would naturally make him blow his top. Just who are you calling flim-flam? The other man stood up and glowered in Minorikawa's face. You! You utterly lack any manners or sense of decency, for starters. I have plenty of manners and decency. I also happen to have a deadline. Bah! As if a flim-flam artist like you has any work at... Okay, well, maybe... It worked the first time you used the word, and now, like, on the third time, it's like, okay, you clearly just wanted to work this word in. Stop calling me flim-flam! The waitress inserted herself between the two men. Gentlemen, please, stop fighting. I demand that you remove this man at once, the older fellow barked. He's the one you should be kicking out, Minorikawa shot back. By now he was ready to go for this guy's throat. Please, the waitress pleaded, both of you, return to your seats. She grabbed onto Minorikawa and began to forcibly drag him back to his table. So two options. Oh, it's too late for that. Giving into his anger, Minorikawa threw a punch at the troublemaker. Or, okay, just calm down. Minorikawa did his best to swallow his pride. Shizuo, Ajab, all journalists are bastards. Yeah, kinda. This will probably give us a bad end, but let's throw a punch. Oh, it's too late for that. Giving into his anger, Minorikawa threw a punch at the troublemaker. Gah! The man dodged nimbly, however. Heh, you're not bad. I'm 6th Dan in judo. Ah. You should have mentioned that earlier. Minorikawa hastily retreated to his seat. The older man snorted and sat down with a scowl. He tried to throw a punch, and the guy's like, wait, no, I know what I'm doing more than you do. And he's like, oh, whoops. Yeah, my bad. The needless interruption, just when he'd finally gotten into writing mode, had all but killed Minorikawa's motivation. He decided he needed to take a breather. He turned to the waitress. 1 spaghetti Neapolitan, please. Spaghetti flavor with tomato ketchup. What is it with flavoring spaghetti with ketchup? Does ketchup mean something different? Like is ketchup like a different kind of garnish in Japan than it is in the States? Because when they use ketchup, I'm thinking like the really syrupy, goopy fry sauce consistency, right? Rather than like a little thicker, more like, thicker kind of like almost stew-like consistency of like a tomato sauce. Because like, yeah, you want tomato sauce, but you don't want ketchup on your spaghetti. Does that sound... Maybe just, I don't know. Napolitan is a corruption of Neapolitan, though the dish itself has no connection to the Italian city of Naples, Napoli. Rather, it originated as a menu item at a hotel in Yokohama shortly after World War II. There is also a spaghetti dish from Nagoya called Milanese, which likewise has no connection to the Italian city of Milan. He might not have a lot of spare time, but working on an empty stomach wouldn't do him any favors. While waiting for his order to come out, he decided to read back over the copy he'd written so far. When he looked back at his monitor, the screen was black yet again. Looking down at his feet, he saw that the power cable was now unplugged. Hey, what kind of cafe are you people running here? He shouted. The waitress hurried over, looking combative. Sir, you yanked that out yourself when you stood up earlier. What a likely story. It's the truth, sir. Minorikawa pointed at one of the customers sitting next to him. Is she telling the truth? Did I really yank out the power cord myself? The man nodded sheepishly. Yeah, well, then that's the outlet's fault for being someplace where it unplugs so easily, Minorikawa squawked. The waitress marched away, her head held high. Just make sure that spaghetti is delicious, Minorikawa shouted after her. Do that, and I'll consider us even. Oh, and load it with cheese. Lots of cheese. People putting ketchup on spaghetti is a thing. I have relatives that do it. What? No, that's not real. That's not a real thing. That can't... Vivian, that's not a real thing, is it? People putting ketchup on spaghetti? Oh, no. And the German or English sauces all use ketchup or a sauce based on tomato ketchup. So I guess it's actually ketchup? Oh, Jesus. That's all the wrong... Oh, no. Well, there goes my afternoon. He plugged the power cable back in, and then let out a heavy sigh. In all his writing fervor, he hadn't thought to save his work. Always make sure to save your work to avoid losing data. Honestly, why is it that your computer only seems to freeze when you've forgotten to save your stuff? He was probably going to have to rewrite most of what he'd done. Trust me, you're just as confused as I am. I'm glad. Like, again, it's not about the tomato flavor. Tomato obviously goes with pasta, right? But ketchup has, like, this very... almost, like, watery, syrupy, like, consistency. That's also very sugary if you don't, like, purposely get it without sugar in it. And then, like, that does not sound like it'd go well with the palate there. Excuse me. Minorikawa looked up to see a young woman standing there. I'm so sorry, she said, about my father. She gave a tiny bow. Your father? Oh, the rude old man? He's just a little worked up right now. Please don't pay him any mind. So what, you're waiting on your boyfriend? Huh? The woman was taken aback. I happened to hear you two arguing earlier. Would have been about 2 hours ago? Oh, yeah, I see. An awkward, embarrassed smile came to the woman's face. I thought he was going to ask my father for permission to marry me, so we've been waiting for him, but... But he hasn't shown up? No. He must be really busy. She cast her eyes down sadly. Minorikawa took a better look at her. She was gorgeous. A woman with her looks wasn't something he saw every day, and that was for sure. Say, would you mind talking with me for a bit, he asked. Me? Yeah. Kinda need to turn my mood around here. Well, okay, at least until my father gets back. The woman cast an anxious look toward the restrooms. Well, what's your name? Rumi? She sat down across from him. Wait a second, aren't you? Minorikawa peered at Rumi's face. One of those twins that was chosen as Miss Midoriyama? Rumi shook her head. No, not me. No? Darn, didn't think I'd be that lucky. He took a sip of his now cold coffee. I do know the girls you're talking about, though, Rumi said. Oh, that is brilliant. That is a good ass screen to get in your visual. That one's going in the... Oh, there we go. Oh my god. So for a moment there, I forgot that I had the I'm using my Switch controller right now, and I forgot that I had the Switch controller plugged into a TV, and I wasn't actually playing on the Switch. So I hit the screenshot button, and apparently that just still works on Steam if you're using a Switch controller. I didn't realize that. That's really funny. Minorikawa spat out his coffee in surprise. Rumi squeaked in alarm as the spray splattered her face, but Minorikawa leaned in unconcerned. You mean it? You really know them? Yeah, Rumi replied. You're talking about the Osawa twins, right? She got out a handkerchief and wiped the coffee from her face as she spoke. Osawa, huh? Minorikawa glanced down at the project proposal on the table. Have we ever actually seen Rumi's face? We haven't. Wait, have we? I feel like maybe we did very early on. But yeah, they've been keeping it away from us now. Sexy Squared, twins share top prize at local university beauty contest. Midoriyama Academy / Maria and Hitomi Osawa. Yes, that's it. The Osawa twins. Actually won Miss Midoriyama myself a few years ago. This year I served as one of the judges. Midoriyama adopted a self-satisfied pose. Guess I really was born under the right sign to be a freelancer. The leads just come to me. Sure, Rumi muttered. Okay, let's talk basics then. Tell me what you know about these girls. I don't really know them personally. Rumi continued to dab at the coffee on her face. But now that you ask, I do remember hearing that they'd enter the contest separately. Wait, separately? Now Minorikawa was a bit confused. Yeah, that's right. I assumed that they entered as a pair, but apparently not. I wonder why. I mean, they're twins. Don't they look alike, wear the same clothes, do everything together, and say the same things at the same time and stuff? Rumi chuckled and shook her head. No, not at all. Besides, these two aren't identical. They're fraternal. They're fraternal twins, she said. Twins who were born at the same time from two eggs that fertilized separately. Fraternal twins do not share the same genetic information that can differ in such characteristics as sex and blood type, though there are cases of fraternal twins resembling one another almost as closely as identical twins. Maria and Hitomi Osawa happen to look very closely alike, but they do not have the same blood type. That's the important thing there. Okay. Okay, that's a very important detail, isn't it? That's a very important little detail there. Okay. Okay. So there's more. There's now like, already so it explains like how they could be confused for one another, but why their blood work has to be different from each other. Okay, I'm getting this now. This game just keeps coming with the punches, doesn't it? Though at a glance they do look very similar. Still, how should I put this? They both give off a very different impression. Oh? Now that sounds interesting. Mind explaining what you mean? Minorikawa opened his memo pad. I talked to them briefly after the award ceremony. The older sister struck me as really energetic, but the younger one was more quiet and reserved. Minorikawa's investigative senses were tingling. I wouldn't figure a shy girl would want to enter a campus beauty contest. Suppose not, no. Yeah. I don't suppose you got anything juicier? Minorikawa asked. Rumi frowned. Would you like to just go ask them yourself? She said. They don't live very far from here. Hold the phone! Minorikawa could hardly believe what had just fallen into his lap. The advance info in the project proposal had mentioned the girls were students at Midoriyama, but hadn't given an actual address. If you could talk to them directly, now that would be pay dirt. That mean they don't actually look alike? Were we somehow bamboozled, but it didn't go quite that far? That would be a great poll at some point later on, where you've had this whole sub arc, right, where two identical twins have been confused for one another, and then you learn that the two twins you're actually thinking of actually look nothing alike, and then you wonder, wait, then who was the other person that looked exactly like them? That's a good twist for... I need to put that away for sometime later. That's a really good one. Not exactly. I just heard that they lived in Shoto. Aha, Shoto! That wasn't far away. A car or motorcycle could get there in about 10 minutes. It'd be quicker than going to Midoriyama Academy, and he'd be able to meet with the girls themselves. Minorikawa flashed a quick look toward the restroom. It looked like Rumi's father had just gotten back. Sorry, she said. I should be going. No problem, and thank you. Rumi gave him a quick nod and then hurried back to her seat. Minorikawa grabbed the directory from the public phone and flipped through the pages. Now, there's something I haven't seen in a good long while. God. Just thinking about having a phone book. Like one that was delivered to you every year, right? With all the landlines and stuff in it. Oh, wow. The game goes for unreliable narrator. I'm now going to meow meow vibrate into another dimension like cats. I don't think this game is going to go unreliable narrator on us. To his surprise, there were only 5 listings for the name Osawa with an address in Shoto. There was neither a Maria nor a Hitomi, but he hadn't expected there to be. He needed to find their parents. Wasting no time, he called up the first Osawa on the list. Bingo bango! Minorikawa couldn't help but pump his fist in excitement. He got in the right place on his first try. Way to go, me! He committed the house number listed on the phone book to memory. Just then the waitress reappeared with a disgruntled expression and Minorikawa's order of spaghetti Neapolitan. Here you are, sir. Oh. The pasta was piled high with an impressive mound of grated cheese. Looked almost like a miniature mountain of snow. You did say lots of cheese, sir, the waitress told him. She set down a canister of cheese and a bottle of Tabasco. Tabasco, a sauce made by the U.S.-based McIlhenny Company, consisting of hot peppers, grain vinegar, and rock salt. Known for its distinctive spiciness, it can make spaghetti and pizza quite tasty with the addition of just a few drops. Tabasco goes pretty well with ramen and curry. Recommended for times when flavor is lacking a little punch. However, even 1 drop may be too much for those who can't handle spicy things. It has been claimed that Tabasco was first imported to Japan by a certain well-known former pro wrestler, but this story is untrue. This looks good, Minorikawa exclaimed. He rolled some spaghetti up with his fork and shoved it into his mouth. The slightly sour sweetness of the ketchup blended perfectly with the mellow flavor of the cheese. That is tasty. There's nothing like satisfying grub to lift the spirits. Turned back to his laptop, still wolfing down the spaghetti. All right, we're back in action. Let's do this! Yet again, he unthinkingly blurted his words aloud as he slipped back into writing mode. I've got this! I've got this! With ketchup smeared around his mouth, he set his fingers tapping away at the keys. Love your passive-aggressive cheese mountain, right? You know, she just opened up the thing and dumped a whole, like, canister of it on there, just being like, okay, here you go, sir. Also, what is with this with chapter being the smear ketchup around people's lips chapter? The waitress let out another groan of dismay. You say something? Minorikawa glanced in her direction, but the waitress faked a smile. No, sir, I don't think so. Yeah, well then go away. You're distracting me. The moment he looked away, she clenched her fist in indignation. Nothing, sir. Good luck with your work, sir. I don't need luck. I've got this. Eyes jumping back and forth between pasta and computer, Minorikawa got to work on his copy once more. Before long, he was oblivious to every sound in the cafe around him. When he finally snapped out of writing mode, he glanced at his watch. It was 2:20. Almost time for him to head to his next interview. Better get a move on. Gah, Minorikawa, why are you such a dick, dude? Kimizuka's taxi came by just as Minorikawa was hurrying out of the cafe. Well, what a pleasant surprise, Minorikawa called out. Nice timing, my man. Kimizuka's startled look quickly vanished behind an expression of professional resignation. Do you need a ride, sir? You know it, Minorikawa replied. First head to Shoto. After that, I'll need to get to Sakuragaoka. As he cast his gaze out at the sights of the city, Minorikawa mulled over his plan for the next part of the day. First, he'd interview the Miss Midoriyama girls, and then he'd meet with the head of that theater troupe. In order to leave himself with enough time to write his copy, that meant... I'd like to get this all wrapped up in 20 minutes, he said. Can you make that happen? Kimizuka flashed a grin. That'll incur a special fare, sir. Oh, special, Minorikawa said as he got settled in his seat. I love that word. Kimizuka stepped on the gas. Gas, gas, gas. Shibuya was a town of... Here, this is the beginning to my essay. Shibuya was a town of contrasts. It was a town of young people, unpretentious, energetic. The scramble intersection and center guy perfectly conveyed that vibrancy. However, if one turned right at the 109 building and headed down Bunkamura Dori, the whole town's atmosphere changed. Shoto was one of Shibuya's, indeed one of Tokyo's, most upscale residential districts. Wherever one looked, there were stately manor houses giving off an imposing air, sending the message that this was no place for the common folk. Right here's fine. Minorikawa directed Kimizuka to pull over. Wait here for me. I'll be right back. Hopping out of the taxi, he checked the nameplates of the nearby homes. Ah, here we go. He'd spotted a nameplate that read Osawa. Kenji Osawa, huh? The name nagged at him, somehow. It had been in the back of his mind ever since he'd seen it in the phone book back at the cafe. Had he heard it someplace before? He walked up to the gate and pressed the button for the intercom. Even the little chime it made when pressed sounded elegant. Elegant! Minorikawa waited, but there was no response. He looked at his watch. It was 2:30 now. His interview with Shinosuke Oarai of the Wandering Angels was supposed to have started already. Episode 3. With help from Shinichi Bando, Mondo was able to get out of his apartment. Then, when all the players had finally assembled, the troupe proceeded with one last rehearsal before showtime. But again, tragedy struck. Mondo came down with food poisoning after eating his lunch. He was rushed to the hospital in an ambulance, and the Angels were once again lacking an actor for the key role of Shido. Oarai was on the verge of panic. Finally, however, he came up with a solution. Novice actor Takuya Amo, age 31, would take on the part. To be continued in episode 4. Still, he wanted to meet with the twins first if it was possible. He had to make a choice. Oh, well, I'll have to come back later. Minorikawa decided he'd better get to his next interview. He started to head back toward the taxi. Suddenly, a man's voice came through the intercom. Yes, who is it? He sounded rather guarded. It's Minorikawa. Where might I know you from, Mr. Minorikawa? Oh, you know, here and there. I mean, there's only one Minorikawa, really. Are you playing games with me? I don't have time for that. Please, just open up. There's no way I'm letting you in. This discussion was getting them nowhere. Minorikawa decided that he'd have to take the direct approach. Look, just hold your horses. I'm here for an interview. You got that? An interview? He'd taken the bait. Most folks could hardly resist the word interview. Oh, my dude. Oh, this angle is good. I love this. With the light at the top of it. And oh, that's... Every time I see another really good photo in this game, I'm like, damn. They didn't have to go this hard. I'm glad they did, but they didn't have to go this hard. That's right, it's a piece for 4-star general gossip. Wait, this is for one of those kinds of articles? The man sounded angry now. What do you mean, those kinds of articles? I'm just looking for an interview. Like hell you are. I'm not talking to anyone from the gossip. You're not the one I'm here to talk to. I want to interview your twin daughters. My daughters? No parent would deny their children a chance for words of their achievements to spread. I understand they won a shared prize for a beauty contest at Midoriyama Academy. If you wouldn't mind my interviewing them, The intercom cut out before Minorikawa could finish. He would give! I'm begging out here on my hands and knees! He wasn't actually on his hands and knees, but whoever was on the other end couldn't see that. But they absolutely could. If your daughters aren't home, could you at least tell them I want to get in touch with them? He wasn't even using the intercom now. He was just shouting over the gate. A man stepped out the front door. Give me your business card, he said. I'll have them get in touch with you later. The man had a somewhat stricken look on his face. This had to be Kenji Osawa then. Wait, hold on. Osawa? Now Minorikawa recognized him. This was Kenji Osawa, the preeminent virologist who worked for Okoshi Pharmaceutical. 4-star general gossip had run a scandalous article on him in the past. Minorikawa remembered reading it. He yelled out his business card, and Osawa snatched it from him. The virologist started to head back into his house. Please see that they get back to me, Mr. Osawa, Minorikawa shouted after him, and then he noticed something odd. It was the middle of the afternoon, but every window in the house had its curtains drawn. That combined with Osawa's demeanor set off alarm bells in Minorikawa's head. He knew he was onto something, but he couldn't linger at the Osawa residence any longer than he already had. He needed to get to that theater ASAP. He hurried back to the taxi and told Kimizuka to go. A few minutes later, the rear tires skidded sharply as the cab came to a stop beside a different curb. The trip from Shoto to the theater in Sakuragaoka had taken almost no time at all. Here we are, sir, Kimizuka announced. Wow, that was fast. Still, Minorikawa was at least 5 minutes behind schedule. He'd hoped that he'd still be able to get the interview with ORI. Ooh, okay, we gotta keep out over here, too. Huh. We didn't have a way to jump back into Osawa. But we have a way to jump from Osawa into Minorikawa. Okay, that's gonna be what it is. Oh, hold on. I picked the wrong bit there. Now we can jump over. There it is. Minorikawa got his wallet out of his jacket to pay the driver. Oh, no, Kimizuka said, waving a hand. Don't worry about the fare. Why not? There's still plenty left over from what you paid me earlier, sir. That's what I meant by special fare. That's right, he paid Kimizuka a whole 10,000 yen for taking him to Endo Electronics earlier. But, I mean, I'm not the sort of person to keep the change, as it were, Kimizuka said. Minorikawa felt a surge of pride at those words. You're my kind of guy, Mr. Kimizuka. A man on the job can always count on Hashiro Kimizuka's taxi. The driver grinned. Now go on. Go. Thank you. I have a feeling we'll meet again. If only because there only seem to be about 2 dozen or 3 dozen people in this entire city right now. As Minorikawa entered the theater lobby, he saw a bunch of flower bouquets, patrons' gifts of appreciation. Among the names of the senders were celebrities he recognized. The largest of the bouquets was sent by Koichi Nakamura of the secret society Chunsoft. The next largest came from Marutaro Ishihara from the government organization Joyar. I'm assuming that's got a French pronunciation to it. Following that were those from actresses Barako Rose, popular scenario writer Ibisu Ipponmatsu, Tohoku Busters Bus Tours Company, Limited, bus guide Kimiko Amo, professional baseball player Masa Narakiyo, the ventriloquist Shin ukulele player Hawaii Matsuda, online TV critic Genzo Akitsu, and so on. Evidently, the Wandering Angels were a pretty popular acting troupe. Episode 4. Novice actor Takuya Amo, despite his nervousness, gave a creditable performance as Shido as the production got underway. But as the show continued, his inexperience became apparent. He went on stage for the big wire action scene, having forgotten to attach himself to the rigging. Dozuka was quick to act, rushing on stage in the improvised role of assassin with an Edo accent, #1, and fixing a rope to Amo's back during the confusion. Continued in episode 5. Shibuya Theater Ace. Nice. People were setting out pamphlets and flyers on a nearby table. There was a palpable tension in the air. The crew seemed skittish as they went about their work. "He's late!" someone shouted all of a sudden. It was a man over in one corner of the lobby, railing angrily to nobody in particular. "Why the hell hasn't that journalist shown up yet for the interview?" Looked like he'd been waiting on Minorikawa then. "What's his deal pulling this while we're this busy?" "Guess that's Shinosuke Orarai. Owarai? Owarai. Owarai. There we go. "I've been busy myself," Minorikawa said, keeping his composure. "Trust me, I know how it goes." "Who the hell are you?" "I'm the guy you've been waiting for, Mr. Orai." The man glared at him. "It's Owarai," he said. "Anyway, I'm Minorikawa. Sorry to keep you waiting. Though really, a short wait is a small price to pay for the chance to be interviewed by me." "Well, I hope you appreciate how valuable my time is, now that you're taking it," snapped Owarai. "Someone sure has a high opinion of himself," Minorikawa replied. He marched up to Owarai. "Damn right I do. I'm Shinosuke Owarai." The theater man got right up in Minorikawa's face. "Like anyone even cares." A jolt of tension sparked between the two men. Around this time, there's a similar jolt of tension between two other people, Kenji Osawa and Mamoru Tanaka. We'll finish off Minorikawa's route, and then we'll jump over to Osawa. I beg your pardon," a woman interrupted, "but Mr. Owarai does have a schedule to keep." "And who are you, Miss, Tsukazawa? I'm the producer." "Well, listen, Sue, I'm in the middle of an interview here. Please, do not interrupt." "What? That's how you conduct an interview?" "That's right. This is how I roll." "Look, whatever," Owarai growled. "Let's just do this already." "Fine by me." The two men sat down on opposite sides of a table in the lobby. But Tsukazawa spoke up again. "Mr. Owarai, don't forget the meeting you have after this." "Yeah, handle that, would you?" Minorikawa let out a derisive snort. "It's like you're holding court," he said. "Do people actually hang around you with that kind of attitude?" "You have no right to judge my acting troupe." Minorikawa straightened up in his chair, a mocking smile on his lips. "Oh, so it is your acting troupe, huh?" he said. "Why not just play all the roles yourself? Heck, you could even be your own audience." "How dare you?" Owarai rose to his feet and made to leave, but Tsukazawa herded him back down into his chair. Minorikawa continued as if he hadn't heard. "Just what is it that you do, anyway?" he asked. Owarai raised an incredulous eyebrow. "You don't know?" "No, why should I?" "You came to an interview without knowing anything about who you were interviewing?" "Yep." "That's it. Get out." Owarai roared and pointed angrily towards the exit. "How dare an unmannered clod like you come in here and waste my time?" "Hey, who's being unmannered now? I came all the way out here to hear your story, didn't I?" "Why don't you get out?" Minorikawa pointed at the exit as well. "Why the hell should I have to leave?" Owarai demanded. "This is my house." Theater jargon for the theater itself, especially the main auditorium. "Look, just get out!" This time both yelled and pointed toward the exit in unison. Tsukazawa quickly interposed herself between them, forcing a smile. "Gentlemen, please calm down," she said, and then she turned to Minorikawa. "You should be aware that Mr. Owarai used to be a broadcast writer. Someone who writes for television or radio programs. A great show depends not only on the actor's performances, but on the skills of the broadcast writer. He's responsible for a lot of big hits." "You don't need to mention that," Owarai grumbled. Nonetheless, Tsukazawa rattled off the names of several shows. Minorikawa did indeed recognize many of them. "Uh-huh," he murmured. "So how come you're running a failing theater now?" "Failing?" Owarai went red in the face. "I'm not wrong, am I?" "You were absolutely the rudest person I have ever met. What would a rank amateur like yourself know about the theater? Oarai's face was dark with rage, but Minorikawa didn't back down. Listen, this has nothing to do with how well your theater is or isn't doing, he snapped. The television world wouldn't accept you. So in order to retain your pride as an entertainer, you started doing theater. Isn't that so? Don't act like you know anything. I've staked my entire life on the theater. It seemed as if ORI might throw a punch at any moment. Sure, a city theater might seem small time compared to TV, but you get a lot more response from it. Response? Oh, now that sounds interesting. Darn right, ORI exclaimed. You could see it from up on stage. The audience, you could see their faces. There was a passion in ORI's voice now. You can really feel it. When the audience is enjoying themselves, you can feel that energy. You can't get that from doing television. Thinking back on it now, my time spent working on TV... Let's see, what's a good analogy? It's like being handed a towel that's already damp. That's not right. Okay, so a better analogy would be... And without further preamble, ORI began talking about his tribulations back in his broadcast writer days. Minorikawa smiled inwardly. The interview ended promptly after 15 minutes, the time that had been promised. Both men emerged from it as if from a daze. Minorikawa found himself staring ORI in the face, shaking him by the hand. So, what kind of story did I just get, he asked, speaking half to himself. You heard about one man and his life, and I have to admit, it was a good interview. Thank you. You have my gratitude. With a satisfied smile, Minorikawa closed his notebook. Right, glad to hear that, then. ORI inclined his head, looking a bit bewildered. A flustered Tsukuzawa interrupted. Mr. Minorikawa, wasn't this interview for a piece about the performance? Huh? Minorikawa blinked. Just that you were only asking about Mr. ORI, not about the performance itself, Tsukuzawa said. Oh, I see what you mean. Actually, I came here for a piece I'm going to be writing called Where Are They Now? Washed Up Broadcast Writer Showcase. But, I washed up? ORI was red in the face all over again. You bastard! How dare you! Forget everything I just told you. I do not give you my permission to use it in your magazine. Haha, you're too late. What? I've already heard your whole story. You should be grateful that I'll be writing a piece on it. You bastard. With a wild look in his eyes, ORI snatched up a hammer and the stage crew had left nearby. Wait, go ahead, hit me, and ouch. Go ahead, hit me. I'll hit you, all right? ORI waved the hammer menacingly. But the attack came to a sudden halt as a ringtone startled him out of his fury. Hold on a moment, Minorikawa said brightly. I have to take this. He whipped out his cell phone. Hello, Minorikawa speaking. What are you going to do? Hit me with a hammer? Man, about to be hit with a hammer. Yeah, pretty much. Although I do love interrupting the hammer fight to be like, hold on, I got a phone call. This is Osawa. Wow, he called back a lot sooner than Minorikawa had expected. Have your daughters come home then? No, actually, there's a favor I'd like to ask you. A favor? Minorikawa had thought back to his visit to the Osawa residence. The drawn curtains, the stricken look on Osawa's face. Minorikawa's instincts had sensed something significant going on. Apparently, getting the full story wasn't going to come without some cost. A favor, huh? Is it something urgent? I'll pay whatever I have to. I just need you to look into something as quickly as possible. His voice had the telltale desperation of a man who'd been backed into a corner. All right, Minorikawa had said. I can help you out for a little while. Osawa hurriedly explained what he was after. The request was a strange one. He wanted Minorikawa to look into a scandalous article that 4-star general gossip had run about him in the past. What makes this so important? Do I have to say? I mean, you're asking me to look into something without explaining anything. He eyed ORI, lurking nearby with obvious irritation. Minorikawa would need to calm down the erstwhile broadcast writer, or else this interview really would be for naught. He decided to bluff both men at the same time. Let me just say one thing, he said into the phone. He made sure he spoke loud and clear so that ORI would overhear. I want to tell the world this story. No, I need to tell it. If I don't feel that way about something, no amount of money in the world will get me to write an article on it. That is my pride as a writer at work. Minorikawa could see Orai's aura of rage fading as he listened. The theater man looked surprised. Whew. Meanwhile, Osawa had decided to open up a bit. All right, he said. I can't share all the details, but... Okay, he's in a talkative mood now. Good job, Minorikawa. See, this is going fine. I love how Minorikawa has alternately has bouts of, like, really good intuition with how to deal with people and get them to talk, and then really, really terrible person habits. The power balance of the entire world might be at stake here, Osawa continued. And I mean that quite literally. I can tell you more after you've done investigating. Wait, was he serious? How could the world's balance of power hinge on looking into someone's alleged marital affair? It was so absurd that Minorikawa had to fight the urge to burst out laughing. A person would need to be out of his mind to believe a story like that. But Minorikawa wasn't the average person. And sometimes, the truth was so ridiculous it really was stranger than fiction. Osawa wasn't lying. Minorikawa's instincts told him that much. All right, he said. I'll check the editing department's notes from back then. Minorikawa felt his excitement building. Things were really getting interesting. For the moment, he nearly forgot about Toyama and his troubles. When he ended the call, Orai approached him and extended his hand. Listen, your methods might be a little extreme, but I can tell you take pride in your work. Of course I do. Sorry for getting so worked up. I bet you'd write a fine article about me, so please, Mr. Minorikawa, let the world know about me and my half-lived life. Minorikawa took the offered hand and shook it. Leave it to me. Once I'm done with it, you won't be just some washed-up nobody anymore, Mr. Ori. It's Ori. Minorikawa grinned. Minorikawa rushed out of the theater. He'd completed all of the interviews that he could get done before 4 o'clock. Now he had an hour left to write it all up to convince the folks from the loan company that the gossip could stay afloat. Rah! He let out a roar, psyching himself up for the final push. To be continued. All right, so we just have the end bit of Osawa now for this hour chunk. All right, so let's see. So back up here, there was the opportunity to jump again, right? From here? Yeah, there it is. God. I really want another game to try to go in with this aesthetic, because this is so damn cool. Osawa picked up his cell phone and dialed Tanaka's number. The phone rang several times. He listened grimly to the empty mechanical sound, preparing himself for disappointment. What is it? Tanaka's voice sounded coldly in Osawa's ear. The tension was electric. Osawa felt a surge of outrage. He wanted to scream, but he took a deep breath and managed to maintain control. Tanaka? Where are you? Is Maria all right? Tanaka did not reply. The police told me. They said you were connected to the kidnapping. A soft chuckle came from the other end of the line. Well, the police sure do know how to do their jobs. Tanaka's tone was unapologetic. He sounded nothing like the man Osawa had thought he knew so well. Why would you do this? Money? Are you having money troubles? Money, Tanaka replied. I suppose that's part of it. Honestly, I doubt you'd understand. Do you have any idea what it's been like for me, doing our research together? You're always the one who takes center stage. The fruits of our success are all yours, even though you couldn't have done any of it without me. The more you said, the more vitriol seethed into his words. Osawa's hand trembled as he clutched the phone. The taker can never understand how it feels to be taken from. You've hoarded so many things to yourself, so I'm taking some of them back. And with that, he hung up. Hey, Tanaka! Osawa dialed the number again, but Tanaka didn't pick up. Osawa racked his brain, thinking back on how Tanaka had been acting earlier that day. Had there been anything unusual? Any clue at all, no matter how small? If he could find some hint, maybe he'd be able to find Maria and Hitomi. Hitomi? Hitomi? That was it. I had been suspicious of Tanaka all along. So much that she'd planted a bug on him hidden in a tie clip. Her suspicions must have been pretty strong. Wait. Osoba recalled what Kajiwara had said. But still, if she's that worried, then giving a tie clip as a gift is a bit, The words had struck Osawa as odd when he first heard them. I had never given him a tie clip. His heart gave a heavy throb in his chest. It couldn't be. No, it wasn't possible. That article from 4-Star General Gossips crept back into his mind. The article had talked about a man I had dated before she married Osawa. The man's identity was never revealed. Could it have been Tanaka? You've hoarded so many things to yourself, so I'm taking some of them back. Tanaka's cold words took on a new depth of meaning. Osoba felt the foundations of his life begin to crumble. Were Tanaka and I accomplices in all of this? No. Wait. Just calm down. He couldn't let himself jump to conclusions. He needed to be more level-headed. Everything depended on it. If the two really were accomplices, why would I have planted a bug on Tanaka? What purpose would that serve? What could it mean? It was no use. Osoba couldn't think of how that made sense. First things first, he needed to establish what the relationship between I and Tanaka really was. Once he figured that out, he'd be able to get a better handle on the situation. Obviously, he couldn't just go and ask I directly. If she really were involved in all this, she certainly wouldn't tell him the truth. Osoba thought back to the business card he'd tossed into the trash. He didn't relish the thought of getting help from that scavenging hyena, but now was no time to be picky. If he wasn't able to leave the house, he needed someone else to do some investigating for him. The freelance writer, Minoru Minorikawa. He was Osawa's only hope. To be continued! And then we know that he called Minorikawa to look in on that. But I guess we're skipping over his side of the conversation here. Bow! This person also killed my friend. Everyone in Shibuya is going to die. Was this an accident or an attack? He's after Hitomi Osawa. How many hours ago was she infected? Damn, things are heating up. I think we're actually nearing the end of the... Oh, we just got an achievement that says infection. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. It's almost time. I think we're getting close to the end of the game now, because I believe there's this hour block, and then there's one more after this as well. So we are getting very close now. Who are we going to start with? It put us on Osawa when we started, so why don't we start with him? I've never truly trusted anyone, not on a fundamental level. Human beings are a type of organism that I can't get a true handle on through mere surface interactions. And the very fact that I have never trusted anyone means that, inevitably, no one else has ever trusted me. In the end, maybe the root of all my problems can be traced back to my heart. As he waited for Minorikawa to contact him, Osawa thought about his current crisis. Assuming Tanaka was behind the kidnapping, then he must have accomplices. And these criminals had mistakenly abducted Maria in their attempt to get at the antiviral drug that was in Hitomi's blood. Maria and Hitomi were fraternal twins, but they looked similar enough to be mistaken for identical twins. Still, Tanaka would never confuse the two. The mix-up must have been made by some criminal who didn't know Maria or Hitomi personally. Insisting that Hitomi bring the ransom to the train station was obviously their solution. It had set her up for a second abduction. But piecing together this much of the kidnapper's plan only raised a different question. Why had Tanaka shown him those emails from Hitomi? Wouldn't the criminals want to keep information like that hidden? The more Osawa thought about things, the less sense they made. Just who are my true allies, and who are my foes? Shit's getting real! Mr. Osawa, a delivery has arrived for you. It was Kajiwara at the study door. Come in. Kajiwara stepped into the room and handed Osawa a letter-sized envelope. Osawa checked the label. Kaming, the official Aya Kameki fan club membership application enclosed. Kaming, what is this? Requires a 1,000 yen initiation fee and yearly dues of 3,000 yen. Membership grants several perks, including the opportunity to reserve concert tickets in advance of the general public. Osawa is fond of the members-only website content, which includes Aya Kameki's blog and exclusive videos. Huh. Is it a website then? Right, he had requested the application from the day he'd gotten back overseas. Would you mind opening that? Kajiwara asked apologetically. What for? I'd just like to check the contents of any packages you received today, sir. It's possible the kidnapper may try to make contact with you by mail. Osawa opened the envelope, and inside he found the expected application along with several postcards featuring pictures of the singer. Kajiwara peered pointedly at the postcard images. You must really like her, the detective said. And just what sort of music do you listen to, then? Osawa asked, staring at one of the postcards. It was a striking photo that showed off Kameki's expressive eyes. Let me think. Mostly classical, I suppose. Osawa raised a quizzical eyebrow. You know, Kajiwara continued. Oh, you know, Kajiwara continued. Like Mozart and Chopin and all the like. Mozart. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Austrian-born music prodigy and classical composer. Famous works include The Marriage of Figaro, The Magic Flute, and Symphony No. 41, also known as the Jupiter Symphony. Frédéric Francois Chopin, composer and pianist of the early Romantic era. He was only 39 when he died? Shit. Famed as a national musician of Poland. Famed. Left behind numerous solo piano works. Famous works include his Nocturne, Opus 9, No. 2, and his Piano Sonata No. 2. He hummed a few bars. Can't say I've ever heard of them. Are you serious? Kajiwara looked shocked. I'm familiar with the names, of course. I just never had much of an interest in music. Oh, well, that's such a shame. Would you care to listen to a piece now? Sure, why not? Suppose I may as well. Now that he brought it up, Osawa was curious to know what sort of music Kajiwara enjoyed. The detective pulled a digital music player out of his pocket. Here you go. Osawa slipped the attached earbuds into his ears. He heard a flow of quiet strings that was soon joined by bold, dramatic horns. As the piece continued, it grew more profound and complex, and Osawa could feel his spirit calming. He took a deep breath and then expelled it through his nostrils. It felt as if the toxic gloom that had filled him was departing with the air. Before he knew it, nearly 10 minutes had passed. What do you think? It's quite nice. The theme of this piece is, Kajiwara paused for a moment and thought. Well, it's about how erudition can be boorishness. Guy who only cares about deadly viruses and J-pop? Gotta be one of my favorite genders. Accumulated knowledge. Erudition, if you didn't know, is accumulated knowledge. The term often connotes an advanced and or esoteric understanding. Displaying a moderate amount can impress others, but pompously flaunting it is bound to put them off. Thank you. If I hadn't met you, I'd never have discovered this piece. He spoke the words unthinkingly, with unaccustomed frankness. Was this the power of music, then? I'm very happy to hear that, sir. Osawa glared at one of the postcards. He let himself be drawn back into the music. Aya was scooping up handfuls of mystical blue sand. The grains dripped from her fingertips. I feel like I could be in this photo here, Osawa muttered. Like I've lived my life letting so many things slip through my fingers. Kajiwara thought for a moment before responding. I think anyone who's worked hard to accomplish something and focused for a long time on that one thing is susceptible to those kinds of feelings. Accomplishing something means getting results. That's not where my problem is. Osawa removed the headphones and gave back the music player. You told me not to hide things. You told me not to hide things from you, right? Kajiwara nodded silently. Then allow me to speak frankly. Leaning back into his Heavily in his chair, Osawa took another deep, slow breath. I'm anxious. So anxious that it's almost crushing me. Given the circumstances, sir, that's completely understand. No! Osawa spoke up before Kajiwara could finish. It's not that! It's not that at all. He shook his head vigorously. If the worst should happen to my daughter, how am I going to feel, I wonder? I'm not a man with a wide range of emotions. My heart is always cold, somehow. And the truth is I've wanted it to be that way, which is why, if I do lose my daughter, my heart might remain unmoved. I may not even be able to feel a father's sorrow. That is what I'm anxious about. He felt his emotions twist inside him in a way that was utterly confusing. For perhaps the first time in his life, he realized how fickle a thing the human heart could be. It's all right, sir. Kajiwara flashed him a carefree smile. What's all right? People who really have cold hearts don't worry about that sort of thing. The detective held out his music player again. Here, I'd like you to have this. Please give it another listen if you like. I think it might help calm your nerves. Osawa took the offered device. He had dared to open up to Kajiwara just a little, and to his own surprise, he felt grateful for it. And how about one of these as well? The detective procured a banana from his pocket. I was wondering where that joke went. I'm glad we brought it back. Well, what would the game be without more random bananas coming up everywhere? I'm fine, thank you. Kajiwara is a fucking bro. He's the creepiest bro, but he's still a bro, I feel. I think he's earned bro status at this point. Are you sure? All right, I guess I'll take it. Osawa spoke irritably, and then his expression softened a little. We'll take it now. You know, you've been getting on my nerves all day. Really? And here I thought I'd been doing what I could to soothe your spirits, Mr. Osawa. It's actually been a real long time since I've yelled at anyone quite so much. As the words left his lips, Osawa found himself thinking back to one particular rainy day. Maria had been in the 5th grade at the time. Osawa was standing in his daughter's room. In his hands he held the letter she'd left behind. He happened to glance out the window and saw Maria walking along soaked from head to toe. In an instant, Osawa was consumed with rage. Maria had left a note. It read, Dad? Dad, you only pay attention to Hitomi. You're too busy with work to play with me, so I'm running away from home. Struck by an impulse he didn't quite understand, he ran from the room, heading for the front door. Maria had just gotten back inside. Osawa met her silently in the entryway. Wet strands of hair clung to the girl's forehead as she looked up at her father with a bitter glare. You don't care what happens to me, do you? Impulsively, he slapped her face. Maria's cheek turned red and tears welled up in her eyes. Osawa's anger transformed abruptly into guilt. He gazed down at the palm of his hand and saw a tiny spot of blood. He was shocked by the recognition of what he'd just done. And then, he was afraid. Afraid that his daughter could bring such raw emotion out of him and make him do something so thoughtless. Well, that explains a whole fucking lot. You see, the Kajiwara offering the banana to Osawa is an expression of the deep homoerotic themes of his and Osawa's relationship. In this essay, I will. I gotta say, Osawa's route does have all the homoeroticism in it, doesn't it? Is there something wrong, Mr. Osawa? Kajiwara was leaning in, looking concerned. Osawa came back into the moment with a start and realized he had buried his face in his hands. No, he muttered, looking up, just getting angry and yelling at people. I'm not good with that sort of thing. I don't like it. He picked up the music player and fidgeted with the earbuds as he spoke. Well, getting angry and yelling at people. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's just human. It's human to do those kinds of things? I often said that he was cold and mechanical. Her sarcasm only underlined the fact that he'd always lived with that he didn't know how to conduct himself like a human being. If you get angry, you show it, Kajiwara said. If you get sad, you show it. It's human nature to let other people know how we're feeling after all. But what if doing that just hurts the other person? Then that's when you apologize, sir. Ah. It occurred to Osawa that he'd never tried to tell anyone how he felt before. He'd never felt the need to. And yet, right now, he suddenly felt that if his daughters were to appear before him, he might blurt out everything he'd ever left unsaid. It was a truly terrifying thought. Darling. I opened the door and stepped into the room. The detectives are asking for you. It seems there's been a development. We'll be right there. Osawa and Kajiwara hurried out of the room. Before the news was shared with the Osawas, the members of the investigation team quietly debriefed Detective Kajiwara. Osawa and I sat on the sofa on the far side of the room, waiting. They could see Kajiwara go pale. He wiped the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief several times. Bad news, Osawa thought. Mr. Osawa, ma'am. Kajiwara shuffled his way over to them at last. We've just gotten word from headquarters. He hesitated ominously. Osawa braced himself. Please, let's hear it. First, about your daughter, Hitomi. Kajiwara's expression was grim. The body of a young man named Achi Endo was discovered near Shibuya Station. Wait, Achi's dead? The divorced couch gap, right? The name meant nothing to Osawa. In a building not too far from the scene, The detective swallowed. Your daughter Hitomi was found dead. The world began to shake. Osawa staggered, reeling with sudden nauseating vertigo. No, it's not possible. And after that, your daughter Maria. The words blurred together. He could no longer comprehend what he was hearing. Everything was wobbling, shuddering, distorting. Hitomi was dead? Hitomi? At those words, Osawa's whole world went dark, as if someone had just yanked the curtains closed. Bad end! Learning of Hitomi's death plunged Osawa into a pit of despair. This was the dark end of a chain of events that began with a simple, small decision. Someone else merely decided to abide by a little promise. And because of that, not only did Achi and Hitomi meet with disaster, but Osawa had lost his mind as well. Keeping a promise is not a noble thing. Keeping a promise is a noble thing for sure, but right now, saving Achi, Hitomi, and Osawa is more important. Okay, so our hint for this one is that keeping a promise at some point. What kind of promise did they make? I'm trying to. Well, we haven't seen any of the other routes in this an hour yet, so we'll keep our eyes open for that though. Well, sucks to suck. I guess we'll see what's up with Achi then, because that would seem to be. That would seem to be where the next issue is. Kanon led them into a narrow back alley. The moment she stopped, Hitomi spoke up. Back alley. Members of SOS don't come by here very much. Word has it that in this place around 10 years ago, one man beat the crap out of 7 street toughs in the blink of an eye, all by himself. Over time, people have offered various theories that he was an assassin, that he was some foreign soldier, even that he might have been a ghost. And to this day, the urban legend lives on. Why was my sister kidnapped? Before I answer that, there's something I need to tell you, Kanon said. Her tone was cold and sharp. Think he would get divorced from his wife, but he got divorced from his daughter's existence instead. Heyo! I've come to Japan because I'm on a mission. I'm not at liberty to discuss all the details. All right, Hitomi gave a slight nod. To answer your question, Maria was kidnapped by mistake. What? Hitomi gasped. But why? Because this kidnapper isn't after Maria. They're after you. Who's after me? The mastermind behind this whole thing, Kanon said. Her tone was matter-of-fact. Whoa, hold on, Achi interrupted. What do they want Hitomi for? That I cannot say. Well, then who is this person? I can't tell you that either. You see, their sex, nationality, age, appearance, just about everything about them is shrouded in mystery. So there's honestly not much I can tell you. Achi and Hitomi stood dumbfounded. What gives? Achi said. She's saying all you know is that this person has some stupid name like Mastermind. Hitomi turned to whisper in his ear. Mastermind isn't actually their name. Mastermind, if you didn't know, was originally used solely to refer to someone of remarkable intellect. The term first took on its criminal connotations in the 19th century. I'm here, Kanon spat, because I'm looking for revenge. Revenge? Hitomi asked. What for? This person also killed my friend. Kanon's inscrutable eyes flashed with a threatening gleam. Earlier said it was your fault that my sister got kidnapped, Hitomi said. Kanon cast her eyes down. 4 days ago, I managed to learn this criminal's plan. So I got in touch with Maria and told her that you were going to be attacked at that party. So that's why she told me not to go. Hitomi's voice trembled as she spoke. I gave Maria a small GPS tracker to give to you, but I guess you never got it? Oh, here we go. GPS, if you didn't know, is a global positioning system, a network of man-made satellites and ground-based control stations for providing geolocation data. Alternately, a device that makes use of said system. Modern cell phones and vehicle navigation systems all use GPS. Let's see this important video. Fucking wow! So glad that's in the game. Hitomi shook her head. I see, she must still have it then. Wait, so then my sister? The color drained from Hitomi's face as she understood. Yes, Kanon replied. Maria acted as your decoy and let herself get kidnapped in your stead. Hitomi swayed on her feet, shocked to the verge of fainting. Achi hurriedly reached out and caught her in his arms. But wait, he said to Kanon as he held Hitomi up. I don't get that either. Why didn't neither of them go? Then nobody would have been kidnapped, right? I mean, why'd her sister need to go and act as a decoy? Kanon let out a tiny sigh. If she hadn't gone to the party, the kidnappers would have just found some other opportunity to come after her. Oh, okay. Achi nodded. That sort of makes sense. I'm betting that Maria's plan was to use the GPS to lead me to these guys' hideout. She wanted to keep her sister safe and also figured she should help me with my mission. It's the sort of scheme that she'd think of. So then can't you just use the GPS to locate Hitomi's sister? Achi asked. Kanon shook her head. The GPS hasn't been powered on since she was kidnapped. It's possible that the kidnappers took it from her. Wait, what? So after all that, even you can't find Maria? Achi slumped his shoulders in disappointment. I didn't say that. Well, what do you mean? I got some intel from those syndicate members we met earlier. Apparently sometime this morning they put Maria into a blue minivan, and since then they've been moving her all around Shibuya. Achi and Hitomi exchanged glances at the mention of the blue minivan. Unfortunately, Kanon continued, those operatives didn't know what the current situation was exactly. So we're back to the blue van then, Achi hurriedly explained what they had been through so far. He mentioned how they'd first seen the blue van where the kidnappers had told Hitomi to find it. He also described how first the man with the cane and then a host of others had come after them. He got a little sidetracked here and there, but Kanon quietly listened until the end. I see, she muttered. So then, what do you think? Achi asked. Seems like we messed up their scheme a little, huh?
Whatever the case, this man with the cane concerns me, Kanon said. I doubt he's working with the others, and I don't know what that means.
Well, maybe that's it. Some guy who isn't involved butts in and throws off their whole plan.
Kanon nodded in agreement. Because you and that man with the cane showed up, she said. They couldn't leave the minivan where it was. They took a sensible precaution.
But then if you think about it, isn't this an opportunity for us to turn the tables on Mr. Mastermind?
Kanon flashed him a faint, speculative smile. I wonder about that.
Oh, come on, Archie grumbled. You're such a buzzkill.
Any well-made plan has a good solid outline, which means that even after it's come to fruition, it's easy to trace things back to the planner.
Oh, is that how that works?
By contrast, if you achieve your goals using accidental means, the outline becomes blurred and makes it harder for anyone outside looking in to grasp what the actual plan is. Archie swallowed hard as he took in the gravity of the situation.
Well, but I mean, like, if there's an accident, people are for sure gonna panic, plan or not.
The corners of Kanon's lips curled up. Typically, I suppose, she said. But the people who are after Hitomi, not only have they put together a perfect plan, they've purposely left certain tiny holes in it. And so we can't even figure out who they are. The outline of the plan is always too blurry. Archie had no response to that. It was like he was hearing about some completely different world beyond the one he knew. If what Kanon had said was true, he'd been dealing with opponents that were on a level way beyond his own. In any event, since these people are after you, it'd be best if you didn't wander around town anymore, Kanon told him. By now, Hitomi had recovered. She stood up straight and shook her head. No, I'm going to find that blue minivan. My sister is in danger because of me. I can't abandon her just to save myself.
Yeah, that's right.
Archie patted Hitomi on the back.
And if that's what you're gonna do, then I don't care who we're up against. I'm with you in this until the very end. Heck, it's too late for me to back out now. That ship has already failed.
Hitomi giggled despite herself. It's already sailed, Archie.
Yeah, that one.
Kanon let out another little sigh. All right, just make sure you're extra careful, she said. You can't count on getting bailed out of trouble like you have before. I understand, Hitomi said. Her eyes showed no trace of doubt or fear. Kanon gave her a slight nod and then quickly disappeared down the alleyway.
Right then, Archie said. Want to get back to looking for that minivan?
And then he stopped, remembering their previous efforts. If they just heedlessly wandered around town, they'd probably end up in the same trouble they'd encountered before. They'd get chased by the man with the cane or by the kidnappers, and their search would be interrupted yet again. What should they do, then? There had to be a better way. Archie happened to glance upward and caught sight of a surveillance camera installed on one of the streetlights.
That's it!
Huh?
God, I can't believe I didn't think of it before.
Hitomi peered at him, startled by his sudden shouting.
We just need to use my old man's surveillance cameras and this'll be a breeze.
Archie took Hitomi by the hand and started running. His destination, the security camera monitoring room in Dogonzaka. Archie didn't slow his pace until they were nearing their destination, and then he turned to look back at Hitomi. He was about to ask if she was doing all right when someone close at hand called out to him. Shit. God damn it, Minorikawa. What are you doing, man?
Hey, mind if I ask you something?
Have you ever heard of SOS? Archie stopped in his tracks as a stranger appeared in front of him. The guy looked too old to be picking a fight with SOS. Archie regarded him with suspicion.
Yeah, why do you ask?
Do you happen to be a member yourself?
No, not anymore.
The man's eyes flashed with a gleam of recognition. Did this guy know who he was? With a broad grin, the stranger took a step closer. Archie's heart sank. He couldn't afford to get caught up in some new hassle right now. Hitomi flashed him a worried look.
Let's go.
Archie and Hitomi dodged past the man and hurried onward. Even if the guy was harmless, they needed to be on their guard. There was no telling just how many thugs and assassins were looking for Hitomi. Rather than head directly for the surveillance building, Archie decided he better make sure the stranger wasn't up to something. Hitomi followed as he slipped quickly into a back alley. There was no indication that the man was following them. What was that guy's deal? Hitomi asked.
No idea, but he sure seemed kind of fishy. Doesn't look like he's coming after us, though.
They quickly took a detour through another seedy back alley. Then, as they were starting to head toward their original destination, Achi felt a sudden searing pain in his back.
Huh!
Glancing over his shoulder, he discovered that one of the foreign syndicate members had crept up and struck him from behind.
Oh no! I've been stabbed! Ah!
Oh, this is Ah! Hitomi screamed. Another man had suddenly appeared, grabbing her by the arms.
Hitomi!
Achi tried to reach out to her, but his arm was leaden. His body refused to obey his commands. As the attacker wrenched the knife from his back, Achi felt the blood gushing out of his... Wait, the knife is still in his back, though. Alright, whatever. The two men started to drag Hitomi away.
Damn it!
He tried to pursue them, but his legs faltered and couldn't find their footing. He was losing blood so fast he was starting to fade from consciousness. Archie could only watch impotently as Hitomi was dragged further and further away. Another bad end. Okay, so it's not over here that we have to solve it. Okay. Achi got stabbed, caught in a surprise attack by one of the kidnappers. He could only watch helplessly as Hitomi was taken away. If that weird guy hadn't tried to talk to him, Achi would never have taken the risk of wandering through the alleys. But how can he keep that guy from wanting to interview Achi? That's it? Okay. We'll do that then. So it's Minorikawa then. Okay. So we just have to make sure Minorikawa doesn't try to interview them. Bam! Wait a second. I feel like there's something I'm forgetting. Gah! Minorikawa stopped and let out a cry of frustration. Daisuke Endo had asked him for a favor after the interview was done. He'd promised to tell the Wandering Angels that the dry ice machine they purchased was defective. Episode 5. At last, as the climax of the play drew near, there was a whole string of troubles, but the cast soldiered on, and it looked like things were going to end all right. But then, backstage, Bando noticed that the dry ice machine was acting strangely. Even after it had been turned off, the machine continued to churn out more dry ice. The producer, Tsukazawa, demanded that the defective device be returned immediately. And so Tozuka, Bando, and Amo loaded it into their vehicle and left the theater. Continued in episode 6. Well, damn. That had completely slipped his mind. If he recalled correctly, the issue was that once the machine started making dry ice, it wouldn't stop. If he ran back to the theater now, he'd lose about 10 minutes. Minorikawa checked his wristwatch. The lone people would be coming by the editing office before too long. He needed to prove to them that next month's issue of 4-Star General Gossip was well underway, or else they'd refuse to wait any longer for repayment. To do that, he needed to fill a minimum of the 6 of the 12 remaining blank pages. He couldn't afford to even waste a single second. This was an awkward position to be in. He needed to keep his promise to Endo, but he also needed to spend his time wisely. Guess I don't have a choice. Well, we already know that this ends with people dying, so let's go to the cafe. And nothing he could do about it having forgotten. He hurried on to the cafe. Sorry, Endo. Sorry, Ori. You're just gonna have to let this one slide. I've got Toyama's life on the line here. It's more than that. It's more than you know, buddy. He opened the door to the cafe with the practice of a regular. Well, the waitress only got that far before her face fell. You again? Hey, hurry up and get me a seat. She grinned wickedly. I'm terribly sorry, sir, but we're all full at the moment. He looked around. All of the seats were, indeed, filled. As you can see, sir. Really now? The waitress' grin widened with triumph. Yes, sir. Fine, I'll just wait here. Let me get some power. Jamming his power cable into a nearby outlet, Minorikawa plunked himself right down on the floor and booted up his laptop. The waitress watched in dismay, then turned to stare vacantly up at the ceiling. Just do whatever you want, she muttered vaguely. You know, a person can only get away with being obnoxious for so long. Sooner or later, someone's likely to call the police.
Oh, whoops. Sorry, that was... Whoops, sorry, buddy. Minorikawa looked up from his work, startled to see the burning hammer salesman standing over him. You're Mr. Yanagashita. Thank you so much for stopping by earlier. You gonna write your article here? Yanagashita eyed Minorikawa's computer. Well, that's the latest model, isn't it? Look, I've got no time to talk right now. Minorikawa opened the file with its half-written copy. Oh, what's this? Chaos at bogus weight loss drink sales demo. Yanagashita read the copy aloud. The organizer, Junichi Yanagashita, didn't merely have a whiff of deceit about him. His breath also stunk. Sound good? Minorikawa asked. I wanted to make sure I gave an accurate impression. Oh, I love what you've done with it. This is great copy. Fantastic. Yanagashita turned to look at him with a manic grin. Yeah, isn't it? In a flash, Yanagashita's face went from grinning to livid. Like hell it is. You think I'm going to just let you write something like that? Snatching up the computer, Yanagashita bolted out of the cafe. Hey, get back here! Minorikawa leapt to his feet and rushed off in pursuit. As he sprinted madly along, Yanagashita turned down a narrow alley. Minorikawa stayed close behind, desperate not to lose sight of him. His quarry began to weave his way through the back alleys of Shibuya. This guy clearly knew his way around town. By Miyashita Park, they zipped up onto a pedestrian bridge. Just where the heck was this idiot going? Minorikawa was such an awful little shit kid. I know. And the thing is, like, I have to root for him because he's trying to do it to save a friend's life, right? So I'm like, okay, fine. But also, he's a little shit kid. Halfway across the overpass, Yanagashita suddenly stopped. Confused, Minorikawa stopped as well. Give that back, he called. The next moment, Yanagashita flashed a mocking grin and dangled the laptop over the railing. Uh-oh. Minorikawa lunged toward him, but it was already too late. The laptop left Yanagashita's hand and went spinning down through the air. And then as the two men struggled, Yanagashita himself toppled over the railing. Without hesitating, Minorikawa jumped down as well. Ah! Minorikawa landed hard. As he struggled to regain his breath, he looked around and saw Yanagashita beside him. Incredibly, the laptop was safe in the charlatan's grasp. Apparently, he'd somehow managed to catch it in midair. Before Minorikawa could be too relieved, however, Yanagashita got to his feet and took off running again. Get back here, you little weasel! I don't think so! This Yanagashita guy was infuriating. That, and he was really fast. Minorikawa considered himself a decent runner, but he couldn't manage to gain on Yanagashita. If running away was a competitive sport, the guy would be a world-class superstar. As he ran along, a peculiar thought occurred to him. Hold on a minute. If he hates my copy that much, shouldn't he have wanted my computer to break? Why'd he go out of his way to catch it like that? It made no sense at all. Hey! Minorikawa shouted between gasping breaths. What are you planning to do with my laptop? Yanagashita glanced back at him. Gonna sell it. Sorry about this. What? They're both shit kids. Minorikawa was taken aback. Consider it compensation for defamation of character. In the civil sense, the act of unlawfully damaging another person's character or reputation in the public eye. In the criminal sense, the act of disseminating damaging facts about an individual to an unspecified large number of people. These two get along so well together. Come on, get real. That can't be defamation if the article isn't run yet. They considered an advance on the compensation. This was so nonsensical that it made Minorikawa's head hurt. But now at least he knew why Yanagashita had dived after the computer. The thief continued to weave his way through the side streets. His speed didn't diminish in the slightest. Damn it, this guy's too much experience in running away. But only running away. Yanagashita can only clock in times like this when his life is on the line. Minorikawa's stamina began to fade, and finally he lost sight of his quarry. But that didn't mean he was ready to give up the search. There were articles on the computer that were right on the verge of completion. Whatever it took, he had to get it back. Yanagashita had said he was going to sell it. Where could he be headed then? He's probably headed to the knick-knack shop, right? Since they buy stuff there? Or is he headed to the electronics? Probably he's headed to a knick-knack shop. Minorikawa recalled seeing one near the Burning Hammer demo site.
He also recalled seeing a poster outside the place that said, "We buy computers at top prices." Right, I remembered that was there. Uh-huh, yes. Yeah, I remembered that. Damn, the guy had led him on a wild goose chase. That shop was surely where he was going to sell the laptop. Gulping a deep breath, he headed in that direction. There you are, Mr. Yanagashita. Minorikawa burst into the shop on Center Guy, an accusing finger pointing squarely at the thief. Listen, there's no way I'm buying a computer that doesn't have a power cable. Details, details. All you sell here is junk anyway. Yanagashita and the shopkeeper had gotten into an argument. Minorikawa recognized the shopkeeper. It was the guy he'd run into on the roadside earlier. That computer belongs to me, Minorikawa shouted as he marched up to them. Give it back. Yanagashita clutched the laptop to his chest. No, I need the money. Knock it off, you're acting like a child. Minorikawa tried to slap him out of his tantrum, but Yanagashita ducked to avoid the blow. And then, bizarrely, Yanagashita froze. A fierce gleam came into his eyes. He broke into an incomprehensible stammer. That's it! Yanagashita snatched up a flyer that his gaze had fixed on. Iron stomach, huh? This right here is my little bluebird of happiness. You know what? You can have this. Yanagashita shoved the laptop into Minorikawa's arms. Ha ha ha! And welcome to it, you idiot. I don't need no worthless computer. You're the idiot, Buster. Minorikawa smacked Yanagashita right across the face. Ow! Hitting him felt good. He decided to do it again. Minorikawa shoved Yanagashita toward the shopkeeper. Hand this guy over to the police, he said. No, not the police! Yanagashita pleaded. Can it, you thief? You tried to rip me off and you have no idea how much is riding on my work. You deserve 10,000 deaths. Honestly, you'd think that dying once would be sufficient. Yeah, I mean, most cases. 10,000? Is that taking things just a little too far? I'm sorry, I give up. Finally, the guy was ready to surrender. Minorikawa let his guard down for just a moment. Like hell I am. Switching gears in an instant, Yanagashita took off running at full speed. This again. Get back here, you bastard! Minorikawa was already in pursuit. Why? You got your laptop back. Who the fuck cares at this point? He stuck with Yanagashita as far as Koendori before losing track of him. The guy sure knew how to make a getaway. Breathing hard, Minorikawa stopped and took a look around the area. As he did, he heard a cell phone ringtone from somewhere nearby. It was the new single from the pop singer Aya Kamiki. Could that be Yanagashita's phone? Huh. Could it be... Somehow he struck Minorikawa as the type of guy who would have a ringtone like that. Seemed worth looking into anyhow. He had nothing else to go on. Minorikawa shifted his gaze around, trying to locate the source of the sound. Uh-oh. Did we just fucking die? Suddenly, a massive fiery blast knocked him from his feet. By the time he realized it was an explosion, his senses were already shattered. What just happened? He couldn't see. He couldn't hear. He couldn't move his body. Where am I? For a while, all he could feel was an intense pain, but soon even that faded away. And then, there was only darkness. Fuck, Minorikawa fucking died. An unexpected explosion, huh? Chasing Yanagashita led Minorikawa to the wrong place at exactly the wrong time. What would have happened if Yanagashita hadn't run when he did? If the MMA fighter Miku Morita comes into the knick-knack shop, she'll interrupt their argument, and things might turn out different. Okay, so we'll have to look out for Miku then. Also, is this where we finally get to see the explosion that was in the opening video? Alright. So, what else do we have to go on here? Oh, right, we broke that promise, so hopefully Osawa shouldn't get despair and Achi should live. And we haven't even looked at Mario yet. Okay, so we'll leave Minorikawa for now, and we'll go back and see how that freed up Achi and Osawa. But first, we're going to take a quick break. Y'all know the drill. I'm going to take 10 minutes, so while I'm gone, everyone stand up and walk around for a bit and drink some water, eat some food, all those little things you got to do to take care of yourself today. I'll be back in about 10. When I do, we will see what's at the end of Asawa's route.
Wound up being a little bit shorter than 10 minutes, but that's fine. Really just needed to get a refill on my coffee. Alright, let's see what's happening here. Alright, let's continue on with Asawa. Is he gonna have his pity party again?
Is something wrong, Mr. Asawa?
Right, okay. Yes, this entire bit's going to be the same, so we'll fast forward through this. Also, feeling like I feel like of all the routes so far, I feel like Osawa's has been the most compelling. It's got very interesting character interactions to it. A little bit of silliness, but oh, we got to keep out now. Okay, never mind. I guess we're just not doing that part. Okay, cool. Let's see how this frees up Achi. Achi didn't slow his pace until they were nearing their destination. He turned back to look at Hitomi. So a little bit further now. Did you want to walk?
I'll be all right. Oh, Achi, look out!
Looking ahead, Achi saw that they were bearing down on a young grade school girl. Her head hung in dismay. Achi quickly took a leap to one side. He managed to avoid crashing into her by taking a tumble himself, but the girl was still definitely a bit shocked. Sorry about that, Achi said. Are you all right? But the girl didn't answer or even meet Achi's eye. She just looked around as if in a daze. I love all of the little bits and pieces we get of the other character stories going, the non-viewpoint characters that are still going about their day. And having shit happen to them. It's still good shit. Was she waiting on someone, maybe? Odd kid, Achi thought. Hope she's okay. Osawa's route has everything you could ever want. Great shots, nice characters, compelling zero escape shit, homoeroticism, everything you could want. I feel like between the response to this game and the AI game, when I played that, I feel like I really got to play Zero Escape on the stream at some point. Zero Escape is one of those games that it's one that we might do on the channel someday, but it's so far down the priority list at the moment that it just doesn't seem likely. Once more, Achi and Hitomi set off running. Achi led Hitomi to an old multi-tenant building. They hurried inside and headed up the stairs. Behind the reception window on the second floor sat the custodian, sleeping on the job. The custodian, Yukinori Kitajima. His main job is overseeing the monitoring room for the local surveillance cameras, but on the side he also works as a novelist and a game scenario writer. He often sleeps in the job during his free time, but sometimes while he's asleep he gets his writing done. Just recently a certain game was released, Shet Shibuya, but since he wrote the scenario and emailed it to the game company while he was asleep, he didn't know about it until just the other day. Oh wow, that's impressive. Hey, wake up, man! Achi gave the window a tap, and the man woke with a start. Huh? Achi-chi? Don't scare me like that. That's one chi too many. And wow, you sure do seem to have a lot of free time on your hands. Yeah, no one's been by to check today. That's not so bad, right? I mean, I guess it is the surveillance room, but still. The man let out one big yawn. My dad asked me to come down here and check on the security monitors, actually, Achi said.
Sorry to bother you when you're busy,
Hitomi added with a polite bow. Oh, who are you? You with Achi-chi?
I'm Hitomi Osawa. It's nice to meet you.
Ho, what, you Achi-chi's girlfriend? Again, one too many cheese there, and that's none of your business. Just let me have the key. Hoping his blush wasn't too obvious, Achi mimed unlocking a door. You won't answer a simple question. You want me to hand over the key?
Yeah, I'm his girlfriend, Hitomi said. We've just started dating. So I'm sure I'll be seeing more of you, sir.
She flashed a winning smile. Oh, well, that's a surprise. Never thought Achi-chi could land a fine lady like yourself. The surprised custodian held out the key. Good for you, Achi-chi. Still one chi too many there. But yeah, dating. Achi gazed into Hitomi's face, even more surprised than the custodian. The key dangled, swaying to and fro like a pendulum between Achi and the man behind the counter.
Achi,
Hitomi said, nudging him in the side with her elbow.
Come on.
All right. Snapping out of it, Achi took the key and headed up to the next floor.
I'm sorry, Hitomi said as they entered the monitoring room, for just saying we were dating like that. I mean, it was a pretty clumsy lie.
No, it was just kind of sudden is all. I was just a little bit jittery, I guess. Achi felt his cheeks color again.
I mean, I had to figured I had to say something or he wasn't going to cooperate, Hitomi said. She looked a little embarrassed herself. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make things weird.
No, Archie said. No, it wasn't weird at all. Actually, it was kind of, He stopped himself there. And now wasn't the time for that sort of conversation. They needed to find that blue minivan. The surveillance camera monitoring room was really just Osawa's office with different lighting and some different props thrown in. Archie knew it well. It was really just a big office with a single computer. So this is the monitoring system, he explained. He switched on the computer. You can see all of downtown Shibuya from this one computer. Hitomi gazed impatiently at the monitor, even though it wasn't showing anything yet. This look of sheer determination on her face held Archie enthralled. You talk about how attractive your sister is, Archie murmured. But as far as I'm concerned, right now, you're the lovely one, Hitomi. Hitomi looked at him uncertain. I mean, looks at the lengths you're going to and the risks you're taking to save your sister, Archie said.
Can't bear the thought that something might happen to her. And last time we were together, I said such horrible things.
Plenty of people do bad things without even realizing they're bad. Never mind trying to fix it.
I'm just doing what I think is right.
Yeah, but these days, most people don't do the right thing. Heck, if they did, Shibuya wouldn't be covered in trash like it is. Me, I appreciate it when someone really cares about the things that are important. Doing the right thing as a matter of course, that's very attractive. Archie blushed as he said it, and Hitomi shyly looked away. Zero Escape is a great experience, especially the first 2 games. That's what I hear. And Somnium Files really got me in the mood for that kind of adventure, more adventure game-ish VN, right? Like I understand some people don't consider games like adventure games to be visual novels, but like that kind of thing. Think the system is ready. Turning to the computer, Archie hastily changed the subject. This thing's so simple, even I know how to use it. Clicking on the mouse, he brought up a row of 4 windows on the monitor. Each window showed a different view of the Shibuya cityscape. The image quality isn't great, but that's because it's being updated on a 2-second delay, I guess. Archie tapped on the keyboard, bringing up shots of different locations. He clicked on one of them in order to enlarge the image. Maybe we really can find that minivan with this. Hitomi was practically glued to the screen. My dad's the one who designed the security system.
Your dad must be pretty amazing.
Well, he graduated top of his class at Tokyo Denko University, a prestigious national university founded over a century ago. Applicants who place highly on the entrance exam can receive a full scholarship. Archie's father was one such attendee. The school has supported extensive research into artificial intelligence and recently announced an AI program known as Body. While the computer is asleep, different personalities emerge, which have an impact on various normal thought processes, forming a network of more human-like thought patterns as a result. Love just the random sci-fi crap hanging out in the back of this game. He always said he could have a career in computer engineering, but he took over the electronics shop so that he could marry my mother instead.
That's such a sweet story. Did they run the store together then?
Archie shook his head. No, my mother died when I was 4.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hitomi sounded even sadder than Archie. Well, anyway, never mind that. There, look. All of these little moments. I love this so much. The seedy-looking weirdo they'd run into at Jijo was on the screen.
Huh? That guy again?
Said weirdo was running all out, a laptop computer under one arm. He was being chased by a man in a long coat. That guy sure gets chased around a lot, huh? Archie said. When the weirdo slipped out of view, Archie switched to another camera. The new view showed the weirdo running again. By hopping from camera to camera, they could track him wherever they went. So long as we have these cameras, Archie said, this guy's nowhere to run. Huh. Nowhere to run, huh? The moment he said those words, they struck an odd chord in his mind. He remembered their repeated run-ins with the man in the cane and how the assassin had seemed always to know where to find them.
Archie, please, Hitomi urged. Stop messing around and let's look for the minivan.
Huh. Sorry, there's just something I'm curious about. Archie continued to track the seedy-looking man. The weirdo rushed into a knick-knack shop on Center Guy. Soon after, the man with the coat appeared and followed him into the shop. He snatched that guy's computer. Still, they remained glued to the monitor.
Oh, that's me.
Hitomi took out her cell phone.
It's an email from Mr. Tanaka.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was about time for my mood to take a dip, Archie thought.
What?
Hitomi blurted. She looked up from her phone.
Archie, Mr. Tanaka found the minivan.
He what? What does he say? Read it to me.
Okay. I ran after it but wound up losing sight of it. It was heading toward Jinan. That's what he says.
What about your sister? Was she inside? Okay, so there's a jump point here into Mario's story.
He doesn't say.
Archie switched over to an array of surveillance cameras near Jinan. The few seconds the transition took felt agonizingly slow. Finally, 4 new images popped up. Archie quickly enlarged one of them. Oh! Oh, hold on.
Ah!
Hitomi let out a tiny gasp. There on the monitor was the blue minivan. There was no doubt about it. Archie and Hitomi rushed from the building, speeding toward Jinan in an all-out run. Neither spoke. They simply dashed along in silence. All-out run. Run, Archie. Run, Hitomi. Run, other guy who's looking for Miku. Archie felt as if they'd been running in a marathon and the finish line had finally come into view. They hooked a left at the station and darted past the Seibu department store. Aha! Archie pointed as he came to a stop. The blue minivan was still there, parked by the curb alongside the slight, hilly incline. Leaving Archie behind, Hitomi started rushing up the hill. Alarm bells started going off in Archie's mind. Someone from the kidnapping crew was in that van. It was dangerous to approach carelessly. Stay back! Don't get too close! Archie shouted. But she didn't appear to hear his cries. The hope of rescuing her sister had driven all else from her mind. Archie started to run after her. Hitomi had reached the vehicle already. She brought her face close to one of its windows, but the tinted glass obscured the view inside. Hitomi circled around to the minivan's other side. Archie saw her grasping at the door. And then this van's gonna explode, right? She slipped out of his view for just a moment. Fucking beautiful. Fucking beautiful. Oh, man, I love this game. There was a thunderous explosion, and a gout of flame tore the roof off the minivan like it was made of aluminum foil. Hitomi! Horrified, Archie charged through roiling smoke, searching for Hitomi. He saw 2 figures sprawled on the street several meters from the van. Hitomi and Kanon. Hitomi, wake up! Archie cradled her in his arms, and her eyes drifted open faintly. Are you okay? Are you hurt? Hitomi didn't appear to understand him. Her only response was a blank, dazed look. There was a small patch of red on her face. Archie wiped it gently away with a finger. He saw no further signs of bleeding. She must have been spattered by someone else's blood then. As far as he could tell, she hadn't been gravely injured. Archie let out a sigh of relief. Hitomi! Oh, Hitomi. Is she all right? Kanon stirred on the ground. Her clothes were scorched in places and she was bleeding from her head. Kanon, did you save her?
Is she all right?
Yeah, what about her sister?
Kanon didn't respond.
No, it can't be. Archie went to look inside the van. Amidst the smoke and flames, he could make out the outline of a body. What happened here?
Archie had to look away. Get Hitomi out of here. Hurry. If those guys show back up. Kanon's face twisted up with pain.
All right.
Archie settled Hitomi carefully in his arms.
Wait, I need to tell you something.
Oh, wait, I need to tell you something. Kanon's pained gasp called him back. Alpha Rad.
Sorry. That's the first thing that came to mind was
Alphard.
Huh?
Alphard. That's the name of the mastermind. I'm sure it'll come up again if you keep pursuing this. But if you value your life, don't get involved with Alphard any further. Now go.
Okay. And thank you. Do you want me to call you like an ambulance or a cab or something?
With Hitomi in his arms, Archie hurried from the scene. He wasn't sure where he was heading. He just wanted to get away, wherever that meant. He carried her past the crowd of onlookers that had swiftly begun to assemble. The flames of the burning van rose ever higher, roaring up toward the heavens. And that was what we saw in the intro. And that's what caused Minorikawa to fucking die. Alright, so that's the to be continued point for Archie. Minorikawa is still fucking dead. We haven't seen Maria yet. We're gonna keep out over here. Let's go to Kano's route. Kano practically dived from the car when it arrived on the scene in Maru Yamacho. Got it. Third try's the charm. The place was teeming with officers and onlookers alike. Out of the way, please move aside! Kano forced his way through the throng. Sasayama was lying in a massive pool of blood. Alright, Sasayama fucking died. Sasayama! Kano rushed to his partner's side. The knife was still embedded deep in Sasayama's belly. Its handle shuddered each time he drew a labored breath. Guess I messed up. Sasayama could only manage a raspy murmur. Please, don't try to talk, Kano urged. Looks like I won't be celebrating the missus's birthday. Sasayama drew a small package from his pocket. It had been really neatly wrapped and fitted with a pretty little ribbon. Here, could you give this to Michan for me? Kano shook his head. No way. You can give it to her yourself. You've never met Michan, huh? She's real pretty. Probably surprised how pretty she... I know, you've told me all about her. Kano, please. Give this to my wife for me. Mustering up the last of his strength, Sasayama pressed the gift into Kano's hand. Sasayama? Sasayama's hand dropped back down into the puddle of blood. A paramedic team finally arrived at the scene. As Sasayama was loaded into the ambulance, Kano felt a surge of rage roiling inside of him. Clenching his fist so hard his nails dug into his palm, he marched over to the captive Alcarawan. You son of a bitch! He wound up for a punch to Alcarawan's face, only to have his arm caught forcibly by the elbow. Spinning his head around, he found Stanley standing there. Let go of me, Stanley! But the American had a grip of steel, and Kano's arm wouldn't budge. They allow you to assault suspects here in Japan, do they? Kano bit his lip and then lowered his shaking fist. No. No, of course not, he growled. Alcarawan let out a nasal chuckle as he watched the pair. With a cold glare, Stanley strolled over to him. He leaned in close to whisper something, and all at once the blood drained from Alcarawan's face. Visibly shaken, Alcarawan said something back to Stanley. Stanley gave a slight nod, then left the captive with the police escort. Kano went over to him. Hey, what was that about?
Apparently, Al Carawan gave Hitomi some instructions. Told her to get into a blue minivan that was parked along Doganzaka. So Stanley's hunch had been correct. But why had Al Carawan confessed so quickly? How'd you get him to talk? You don't need to know that. Turning on his heel, Stanley went back to report the news about the blue van to the task force. Kuze immediately directed the detectives nearest to Doganzaka to look into it, but they found no blue minivan in the area. The order then came down for all personnel to search for that vehicle. Kano thought back to another item in the Dick diary. Dick Dictum, number 14. Use the dead as a stepping stone, but be sure to die a stepping stone yourself. What the fuck? That coming from Stanley has to be a great example of most, like, unintentional dark comedy, right? In the abstract, Kano could appreciate the nobility of self-sacrifice, but when he thought of Sasayama's bloodstained figure, it wasn't so easy to keep his emotions in check. First time you've ever seen a fellow officer get hurt. Stanley had come back over to him. We don't have time to relax. If you can't keep your anger in, then do something about it, here and now. Stanley pointed to his own jaw. Hit me. American style. Kano smiled wryly at the unexpected proposal. No thanks, I'll be fine. Hitting this man wasn't going to make Kano feel any better. Stanley's expression remained unchanged. It's not like I don't understand why you wanted to punch the guy, he said quietly. If I didn't have to question him, I wouldn't have stopped you. Kano wasn't sure what to make of that. Are you encouraging me? Stanley held his arms wide. I don't know. Maybe. Kuze's voice suddenly cut in over the wireless. We located the blue minivan. It's in Jinan 1 Chome on Kowandori. Hitomi might be there, and maybe the kidnapper's ringleader would turn up too. On pure reflex, Kano broke into a run. Stanley followed close behind. They sped through the back streets, making their way toward Kowandori. Kano was a pretty fast runner, but Stanley kept up with him without apparent difficulty. Were you in the Army or something? No, the Marines. United States Marine Corps, a rapid deployment force specializing in amphibious landing operations. An independent branch of the armed forces along with the Army, Navy, and Air Force. The Marines' motto is Semper Fidelis, Latin for always faithful. Damn, Dick Diary went into some extreme kinks there. Right? Dick Diary really took a turn. It wasn't much further to Kowandori. Kano, if we find that van, do not get too close, Stanley warned. It could be a trap. It could be a trap. These people will do anything to carry out their goals. Anything, huh? Kano could sense the truth of Stanley's words. He reminded himself that his life could depend on remembering them. He raised his eyes. They were coming up on Kowandori. Suddenly, a boom as loud as cannon fire shook the area. Something's wrong, Kano thought. That's no ordinary city noise. A column of black smoke rose up from between two nearby buildings. Passerby stopped and stared, gasping in alarm. Yo, more FMV! Hell yes. Oh, we're getting into the good shit now. And then Kano saw flames. This hadn't been an accident. Someone had set off an explosion. The Shibuya precinct wasn't too far from here. Kano recalled the attempted bioterrorism attack on Kasumigaseki. 2 years ago, the Tokyo Metropolitan Public Safety Commission obtained intel of an imminent bioterrorist attack within the city. Immediately afterward, an unoccupied minivan exploded outside of the Metropolitan Police Department, and a device for dispersing a bacterial contagion was discovered at the subway platform in Kasumigaseki Station. Having determined that the city bureaucracy was the target, the Japanese government contacted the terrorist organization responsible in secret, making a deal to put an end to the threat. That incident had begun with a van exploding outside of the Tokyo MPD station as well. Already, a large crowd of onlookers was gathering. Shouts rose up as they took in the scene. What's going on? What happened? That car is on fire! And there's no driver at the wheel. Kano called into HQ, then quickly slipped around to the back of the burning vehicle. It was a minivan. Peering at the flaming chassis, you could see that there was someone inside. Oh no. Could that be Hitomi? Once they had their hands on the antiviral, the criminals would have no further use for Hitomi Osawa. Already the body had been charred to ash. At this point it was hardly recognizable as human anymore. That's another keep out. Alright. Shit's really... I think we finally hit the point where the shit has just hit the fan. Alright. Alright, that's Minorikawa that it's trying to jump to there, and we can't jump from that point with Minorikawa. Osawa's out of keep out. Right, so we gotta get Minorikawa alive again. Okay. To do that, we have to go through Mario's route. So we want to... So when we're on Mario route, we want to make sure that... What was the thing? Oh, right. We wanted to... If we run into Miku, which we will do on this route, we want to make sure that she goes into the knick-knack shop.
Wait, hold on. Is my name Hitomi Osawa?
At my shout, the man with the cane hesitates, his finger on the trigger. What do you mean by that? The barrel of the gun is still aimed squarely. Oh, right, this is in first person because we're on Mario's route.
The barrel of the gun is still aimed squarely at my head. I mean exactly what I said. Is my name Hitomi Osawa? I don't know who I am.
You're trying to play games with me.
I'm not playing with anyone, I swear. I'm utterly desperate now. Getting killed is one thing, but who wants to die without even knowing who they are? Tell me, am I Hitomi Osawa or not?
The man gives me a good hard... Oh,
the man gives me a good hard look.
Damn it, I wonder...
He continues to study me along the barrel of the gun.
Tell
me what you know.
Oh, tell me what you know.
It's an order, not a request. What I know about what? Look, I have amnesia. I quickly summarize what's happened to me since I woke up in that storehouse. The man listens intently, never taking his eyes off me.
I see. So that's what's going on then. Okay.
Once I'm done with my story, the man with the cane sits down on an empty soda crate. It seems he believes me at any rate. That's a relief, if nothing else. So then, am I Hitomi Osawa?
No.
Then who is Hitomi Osawa? Is she someone who looks like me?
Shut your mouth.
The man spits.
Just be quiet.
His expression is vacant.
What am I gonna do?
He mutters to himself. If I'm not Hitomi Osawa, does that mean you don't have any business with me?
It seems so.
In that case, can I go? The assassin doesn't answer. He lets his pistol hang limp in his hand, the muzzle dropping to a point at the ground. Doesn't look like he wants to kill me anymore, but it doesn't look like he'll just let me go quietly either.
Let's do something about the gun.
I need to do something about that gun he has and then make a run for it. I pick up one of the crates that are lying around in the alley and hurl it at the man with the cane. Then I book it right out of there.
Got him.
I run for a long time without looking back. When I finally do take a peek over my shoulder, there's no sign of the guy following me.
Oh, yo, it's these stairs again. And yo, it's Miku!
Slowing my run into a walk, I notice Miku, the girl I fought for those cases of burning hammer, sitting on a nearby staircase. Thank you for earlier, I call out. She gives me a puzzled look. You let me have those dye drinks from the knick-knack shop? Revelation dawns on her face.
Oh, right! I didn't recognize you since you're not a cat anymore.
What are you doing here, I ask.
Just like, you know.
She gives me a half-hearted smile.
Say, where did you learn Aiki Jujitsu?
Huh? The question catches me off guard. I don't know what to say.
Your Aiki Jujitsu, where did you learn that?
My Aiki Jujitsu? Now that she mentions it, that's a great question. I mean, I must have learned somewhere, or my body wouldn't have moved the way it did back then. I wonder who taught me. Try as I might, though, I can't remember. Miku interprets my silence as refusal to answer. She lets out an annoyed snort. Huh. What, is it a trade secret? Fine then, how long did you train? Not that long, I guess, probably. I was trying to avoid telling her I have amnesia, but she obviously thinks I'm being secretive. You know, she says angrily, after losing to you, I've completely fallen apart. I've lost everything. Do you know how that feels? To feel like you've lost hold of the thing that makes you, you? I nod with conviction. I do know. I've lost things too. Like my memory. You do? Well, I just can't take this anymore. I'm having a complete breakdown of identity. I mean, saying this having lost you and all, but a long time ago... Do you mind if I tell you some stuff from a long time ago? Identity. Developmental psychologist Eric Homberger Erickson was a key proponent of the concept of self-identity, the ability of individuals to continually and reliably know who they are and what they should do. Anyway, so, a long time ago. And so Miku launches into her story. Huh. So maybe... Oh. You think maybe it is for the best if I quit? She asks at last. By now, 15 minutes or more have gone by. I've listened to Miku go on and on about her teenage years because I feel bad about getting her so depressed, but yikes. She's asked me all these questions I don't even understand, but although I'm starting to get sort of fed up with her angst, I keep my patience and respond as best as I can. If you love doing it, then I don't think you should quit, I tell her. Chances are, if you try to do something else, you're just going to come back to martial arts anyway. Besides, you probably owe it to the person who sent you down this path in the first place. You think so? Then maybe you're right. Yeah, you are. Miku's face has regained a measure of cheerfulness. Thanks, I'm going to keep practicing more so I can get stronger. I'm not going to lose to you next time. I'll keep that in mind. I've got no interest in fighting her again, but for now I'll keep that to myself. Alright then, I'll see you around. With a panting wave, Miku hops to her feet and heads off. I wonder if that was... Yeah, I think we kept her too long. I think if we instead wait for a moment to leave with the guy with the gun, we won't run into Miku, and Miku will just move on to the knick-knack shop, which is what we want. As I watch her leave, a feeling of jealousy wells up within me. Did I once have something I was that passionate about? I don't even know because I can't remember. I just can't remember. That gunman. The one with the cane, he might know something about me. And at this point, I'm even willing to risk a run-in with a killer to find out more about myself. I decide to head back to where he was before. Miku, and this is how I went from being a singer to alleged game dev to martial arts. When I arrive at the alley, though, there's nobody there. Paradoxically, I'm both relieved and severely disappointed. And then I happen to notice something lying on the ground. What is it? I pick it up. It's a notebook. Slipped into the back cover is a photo showing 2 boys and a girl. Well, what do I do now? Do I go to the police? How would I even explain the situation? I can see it now. There's this perler out there, and he's after this person named Hitomi Osawa. And then the police would be like, who is that? And who exactly is after her? And then what would I say? Heck, they might not even give me the time of day in the first place. Not only do I not have any idea who Hitomi Osawa is, I know nothing about the guy who came after her except that he walks with a cane. And I can't even tell them who I am. They'd probably shoo me away without a second thought. What am I supposed to do? I hang my head at a total loss. The necklace around my neck sways idly to and fro. Keep out, huh? Oh, we can get more from here. So none of that changed the bad end over here. So I wonder if we have to... Let's try the other option. I remain motionless, waiting for an opportunity to run away.
I might not make it in time.
The man murmurs to himself under his breath.
Should be a 428, but Mario goes, ew, woo, 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 instead of oh, 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 oh. Yeah, there you go.
Not make it in time for what? I'm curious now, but this is hardly the time or place to try to find out more. I have learned for certain that I'm not Hitomi Osawa, which basically tells me nothing. I'm right back to square one on figuring out who I am. The assassin has gone quiet, sitting on a pile of crates. He seems lost in thought. Still, I don't dare try to get away. All I can do is stand and wait and mull over my own situation. Just who am I? I ask myself again and again. I am.
No, I have no business with you.
The man finally says.
Go. Don't worry. I won't follow you.
I wonder if I can believe him. Maybe he's just trying to get me off my guard so he can shoot me in the back.
Don't go to the police or go back home, he continues. Lay low by yourself somewhere for a while.
How long is a while?
Until around sundown. Should all be over by then.
It'll all be over. I have no idea what it is, but I decide not to pry in case he decides to change his mind. Okay, I'm going to run away now.
Sure.
I take a slow step backward. I'm starting to turn away when he speaks up again.
Before you go, I need to tell you one more thing.
What's that?
When you do get your memories back, I'm sure you're going to hate me. And so I apologize in advance.
Of course, I have no idea what he's talking about, but it makes me even more uneasy.
I truly am sorry.
I have no response for that, so I just click away ahead before I can read the thing, because that's how I roll. So I just give the man one last look before I turn and run. Okay, there. I decide to look for some place to hide out for a while, as the gunman suggested. But since I don't really know my left from my right in this town, it's easier said than done.
Okay, cool. So we didn't hold up Miku, so that should change how Minorikawa's route plays out now. Okay. Yeah, because we no longer have the bad end with Minorikawa. Awesome. Solved that problem.
Before I realize it, I've made my way back to the knick-knack shop where I brought in the necklace. Maybe I could hide out in here? As I contemplate that possibility, I hear an all too familiar voice.
Tama! 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 Tama!
There's Mr. Yanagashita on the floor on the shop. He's been tied up with some rope. What happened, boss?
Look, this is all just... I was framed!
Nah, whatever's happened, I'm pretty sure it was all his fault. Just call it a hunch.
He says I'm a thief. Well, I say he's the thief for selling stuff that he finds around town.
Hey, the sales clerk steps into view, scowling. Just what are you implying? What in the world is going on here? I haven't the foggiest.
Tama, help me! Please!
Yanagashita kicks and squirms like a hyperactive child.
Do you know this man?
The sales clerk asks. No. Well, I mean, sorta.
It's a real pain. He's been making a scene like this for as long as he's been here.
I find it hard to imagine a worse way to interfere with someone's business.
I hate to ask, the clerk continues, but could you take him to the police for me?
The police?
Yeah.
Well, the police, the gunman did specifically warn me not to go to them. I feel no loyalty to that killer, but I am reluctant to antagonize him. And for reasons I can't explain, I have a strong sense that going to the police right now is a bad move. But Mr. Yanagashita isn't privy to my thoughts. He looks up at me with a hopeful gleam in his eye.
Yeah, that'll work. Tama can take me to the police. Yeah! Then we can put this all behind us. All's well that ends well, right?
Well, sure. Feeling like I have no choice, I leave the shop with him.
Okay.
Mr. Yanagashita says excitedly as soon as we're out of earshot.
Now let's go find Shiri.
Huh? Are we going to the
What? No, we're not really gonna go. Oh man, I'm so glad you showed up, Tama. Now come on, let's go find Shiri.
From the big grin on his face, I have an inkling of what's coming next. You've thought of another get-rich-quick scheme, haven't you?
Goodness, Tama, you can see right through me.
It's not that difficult. It's practically written all over your face, boss. But Mr. Yanagashita isn't really listening. He's too full of enthusiasm.
This time I got a line on 10 million yen. So come on, let's go make ourselves stinking rich.
He punctuates his grand announcement by pointing fervently at some non-existent listener.
Several weeks later. What? Iron Stomach, a celebration of truly astonishing appetites. When the mighty stomach triumphs over the endless cavalcade of icebergs. I didn't get to the end of it.
I stand with Cheery on the winner's podium. The cheers and applause are deafening when the master of ceremonies makes the announcement. Cheery is the champion. She laughs with delight as she holds up the trophy that signifies her 10 million yen win. And me? I got runner-up. I wasn't too into the idea at first, but after giving it a shot, I found that a professional gluttony kind of grows on you. Even I was surprised by how much I could eat, and I had to admit it felt kind of good. And memory still hasn't come back, but that doesn't matter anymore. I found myself a new purpose. To steal Cheery's spot on the throne. That right there is now my greatest goal in life.
Sure. All right. I'm guessing that we just have to make sure Miku doesn't leave Yanagashita there. Tama never got her memories back. She ended up starting a new life on the competitive eating circuit, which may not have been a horrible fate, but wouldn't it be better if she recovered her old life as Maria? When she was cornered in that alley by the man with the cane, there's someone who could have turned up and helped her out. Yanagashita. But he can't do that if he ends up getting tied up at the knick-knack shop. Right. Okay, so we gotta make sure he doesn't get tied up. Okay, cool. Kano is now freed up as well. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so now we should run into Miku at the knick-knack shop here. Yep, this is all the same. There you are, Yanagashita. Alright, this is all still the same. Let's see what... Yanagashita is going to not want to give it up. And right, because he's looking at a new thing. And then we get to smack him because he's being a dope. But then someone else came into the shop. Yanagashita's eyes lit up as they saw who it was. Oh, my angel, whatever is my darling Miku doing here? Miku stood in the doorway on the verge of tears.
Mr. Minorikawa, she began, and then her voice choked up.
Miku, what's the matter? Is something wrong?
Miku drew in close to Minorikawa's side.
Huh? Huh? Yanagashita's gaze darted back and forth between Minorikawa and Miku. You two know each other?
Sort of. More to the point.
Oh, sort of. More to the point. Is she the girl you said you were in love with? That's right, the one and only Miku. I have her entrance music set as my ringtone. Paying no heed to Yanagashita's excitement, Miku kept her eyes fixed on Minorikawa.
I lost. To a girl who knows Aiki Jiu-Jitsu. I lost!
She buried her face in Minorikawa's chest. Ah! Yanagashita let out a gasp. What's this about? What is this all about? He seemed on the verge of panic.
Mr. Minorikawa, I need to learn Aiki Jiu-Jitsu. I feel so ashamed.
She buried her face even deeper into Minorikawa's chest. That's so unfair! With tears in his eyes, Yanagashita darted out the door. Minorikawa glared after the pathetic fellow as he scampered off. The guy sure knows how to take advantage of a bad situation. I'll give him that, he murmured. Anyhow, I'm just glad I got my partner. All right, we can't let it. If we try to do that, okay, yeah, we have to let him get away. Anyhow, I'm just glad I got my partner back. Ordinarily, he'd be inclined to pursue Yanagashita and subject him to a tirade at the very least, but there was no time for that now. He explained the situation to the shopkeeper, who flashed a sympathetic smile. Is that so? Lucky for you, he screwed up then, much as I'm happy to do business. I just can't buy a computer that doesn't come with its accessories. So you'd have bought it from him if you had the accessories? Well, of course, stolen or not, it's all the same once I've sold it. The shopkeeper chuckled unapologetically. Suppose that's true. Minorikawa laughed along with him. Yeah, all the same. Like hell it is, he roared. The shopkeeper froze like a startled rabbit. I bet everything you have for sale here has been stolen, hasn't it? Don't be ridiculous. I'll warn you up front. There's no use hiding things from me. I've interviewed you, after all. I know you. The shopkeeper was getting more and more flustered. I mean, look, this is just between you and me, okay? Sometimes I go around gathering stuff that people have lost and I sell it here. But it's not stolen, just repurposed. There's nothing wrong with that, right? The shopkeeper smiled ingratiatingly. You moron! Minorikawa stuck his finger into the man's face. Selling lost property is a serious crime, too. A potential violation of Article 254 of the Penal Code of Japan regarding embezzlement of lost property, which states, a person who embezzles lost property, drift property, or any other property which belongs to another person and is in no one's possession shall be punished by imprisonment with work for not more than 1 year, a fine of not more than 100,000 yen, or a petty fine. Well, there you go. It is? Well, I mean, I guess I sort of figured it might be sometimes. Well, I'm not the police. I'm more into curiosity than legality. In fact, I find this all pretty fascinating. I mean, what sort of things have you gathered up here for sale? Well, let me see. I like this and that and that and that. The man pointed to various items on the shelves. Also this and that and that and that and, well, that, I guess. Minorikawa's eyes were directed all over the shop. Everything the shopkeeper had pointed out had a hefty price tag. And you're actually able to sell things like this? Minorikawa asked. Sure, I can sell stuff. Earlier today, someone bought a big necklace. I listed it for 40,000 yen, but I discounted it down to 30,000. And you could still make a profit even offering discounts. Sure, I mean, it was just something I found lying on the ground after all. Minorikawa looked back at him, and for a moment, he laughed as well. Then his face turned hard. This is no laughing matter, he bellowed. You need to stop what you're doing here right away. Otherwise, you're going to find out what it's like to get punished by my pen of justice. I'm so sorry, the shopkeeper bowed repeatedly. Minorikawa glared. The truth was that right now he was so busy he'd have to let this guy slide. Still, this whole asinine affair had eaten up a big chunk of time he didn't have to waste. He was going to have to finish up his copy back at the editing office. Laptop in hand, he left the shop, only to stop short when a slight figure stepped out in front of him. Mr. Minorikawa! Miku stood there, barring his path. Please, introduce me to a dojo where I can learn Aiki Jiu-Jitsu. I'm sorry, I really don't have time for this right now. Minorikawa tried to hurry onward, but she stubbornly refused to let him pass. You introduced me to that other dojo before, remember? I suppose so, now that you mention it. He tried to slip by her on her right-hand side, but she was quick to block him. You're the one who introduced me to the world of martial arts, Mr. Minorikawa. Well, yes, you know you're putting me in a bit of a bind here. Trying to slip by on her left was a no-go, too. She could anticipate his every move. Please, just hear me out, Miku said. She was speaking through quiet sobs now. I can't stand to leave things like this. She looked Minorikawa right in the eye. I'm sorry, you'll just have to persevere until you're able to win again. It's just something you need to do yourself. But you were the champion at that one pub, right? Maybe your mistake was thinking that you'd be able to win in an actual for-real fight. Miku began to tremble. You jerk! Miku delivered a blindingly fast slap to Minorikawa's cheek. Why'd you have to put it like that? You're so mean. Bursting into tears, Miku ran off. Hey, Miku! She gave no sign that she heard him and didn't turn around. Minorikawa rubbed his cheek. It stung. For once, he actually regretted what he said. Maybe you shouldn't have assumed she'd be willing to just give up her hobby. He did, in fact, know several Aiki Jiu-Jitsu dojos. If only he had the time, he could have introduced her easily enough. Checking his watch, he saw that he only had 30 minutes to change until 4 o'clock. There was no more wiggle room at this point. The articles needed to get written, and fast. He needed to get back to the editing department. And yet... Damn it all to hell, I can't get work done like this! Minorikawa broke into a run, but he didn't run for Heaven Publishing. Instead, he went after Miku. What? I'm running out of... Okay. Another keep out. All right. I'm running out of options here. Oh, Achi's is different now, too. Okay, hold on. A lot of things have changed up here. We know what the clear difference is in Mario is because now Yanagashita will show up. So maybe we go here. Start here. All right, this is all the same now. Who are you? Who? Tama! Tama! I am... None of the above.
None of the above. None of those fit me at all. I turn at the sound of an exuberant voice and see Mr. Yanagashita running my way, flailing his arm in a friendly greeting. I swear this guy could wind up banished to the pits of hell if he'd still give it his all day in and day out.
Oh, thank goodness! It's you, Tama. I knew it.
The man with the cane grumbles something incoherent, then holsters his gun and flees the scene.
Oh, now you're with some middle-aged guy. Looks so sweet and innocent, but I guess you kind of get around, huh?
Boss, nice timing. I do a little fist pump. Whatever he's doing here, I'm glad he drove off that guy with the gun.
Oh, what are you so happy about?
Yanagashita gives me a puzzled look. But he's promptly distracted by his own excitement.
Well, anyway, never mind that, Tama.
He shifts down to a conspirational whisper.
Conspiratorial. Sorry. You know I'm such an idiot. I can't believe I was in such a tizzy over some silly scratch card from a magazine.
I can tell he has news he's itching to tell me. Did something happen?
Well,
he brings a hand to his mouth and giggles unsettlingly.
I had a great little idea. A great way to strike it rich.
I feel like I've heard this from you before. Mr. Yanagashita shakes his head fervently.
This time it's different. We're talking way more digits than before. Try not to be too surprised, yeah?
Spittle flies from his mouth as he rattles on.
It's okay to be surprised, actually. In fact, I'm guessing you're definitely going to be amazed this time, Tama.
I can practically see the banknotes dancing in his eyes. Cut to the chase already. What is it you want to tell me?
This time, get this, I got a line on 10 million yen.
He thrusts his index finger skyward, grinning ear to ear.
Surprised now? Yeah, you are. And it doesn't require any capital. It's no risk, high return. In the world of equity investment, a wise investor weighs risk against the potential for return. Many heavily risky projects, however, yield little in the way of actual returns. Such cases are called high risk, low return. The inverse, low risk, high return, is quite rare. The idea of no risk, high return is simply absurd.
There's a crazy gleam in his eye.
Oh man, I'm finally going to be part of the Billionaires Club.
That is so ridiculous I don't even have a snappy retort for it. Never mind that 10 million obviously wouldn't make him a billionaire.
By the way, you haven't seen Chiri, have you? We're going to need her help to wrap up this 10 million yen.
Chiri? No, I haven't run into her since the sales demo.
Darn, well, if you do happen to see her, tell her to get in touch with me.
Oh, sure. All right. Still don't know what he's going on about, but there's probably no harm in being helpful.
Thank you, Tama. Guess I may as well give you a little hint.
A hint?
Yeah, a hint. Want to hear it?
Sure. Thank you.
Guess I got no choice. And put that way, I have to tell you.
Mr. Yanagashita clears his throat and proceeds to declaim in an affected tone.
When the mighty stomach triumphs over the endless cavalcade of icebergs, the hero shall be blessed with fame and fortune.
Huh? What the heck does that supposed to mean? He looks inordinately amused at my confusion.
It's part of a legend. You only need to remember that one verse for now. You're going to bear witness to history.
I feel like this guy's right out of some kind of story himself.
Anyway, thank you for helping me out with the cheery thing. Adios. Spanish for goodbye. The true meaning is closer to the English word farewell. In day-to-day interactions, most Spanish speakers use the word ciao. Adios can carry the connotation that you do not expect to see the addressee again. Oh, well, that's sad. And then, like a whirlwind, Mr. Yanagashita... Oh, right.
And then, like a whirlwind, Mr. Yanagashita zooms away, leaving me alone in the alley. Whew! Suddenly, I feel totally exhausted. I let out a sigh and drop my eyes, and that's when I noticed a notebook on the ground at my feet. Did the assassin drop this? I pick it up and look inside. There's a photograph tucked inside the back cover. It shows 3 young people. All right, and then this is... We're going to go through this bit again. What do I do now? No, we don't go to the police. So this is the same. Okay, so now where do we wind up? We're on another keep. Jesus, they're really milking this 1 hour block, aren't they? Oh, okay. I guess we'll see what's new in Kano route. I don't think this will change anything, but... Okay, this is the same. Right, we get the cool FMV here. You know what? No, I already agree with my decision to come back here. Watching more of the cool FMV is absolutely worth it. Something about seeing Stanley acting naturally instead of in his carefully posed photos makes him seem much less menacing. Maria's big quest was to buy this necklace, and now she's just wandering aimlessly, and we have no idea what the necklace even does. It doesn't do anything. It's just a thing. Someone set off an explosion. Several people were on the ground nearby, evidently injured by the detonation. Mr. Minorikawa! Mr. Minorikawa! A high school-aged girl was crying, clinging tightly to a man who had been caught in the blast. Kano recognized her as the girl he talked to earlier during the traffic jam. The man looked like he might still be alive. Kano hurried over to them. "Police!" he announced. Blood was streaming from the man's mouth. He clearly suffered some internal damage. "Hang in there, buddy. Stay with us." The man's face was twisted up in pain, but somehow he managed to croak out a few words. Kano let out a gasp. The man's voice was almost too weak to hear, but what he said still shook Kano to the core. This man knew something important. Something crucial to the investigation. Rescue vehicles arrived on the scene, and the wounded man was promptly loaded onto a stretcher. When he placed inside the ambulance, Kano flashed his badge at the paramedics and got in alongside him. The man had already fallen unconscious. Kano didn't know when he'd wake back up, but he knew he needed to hear what the guy had to say. He sensed that this stranger was the key to unlocking the entire case. But though Kano kept a lonely vigil, the man never woke again. The antiviral that had been given to Hitomi, the blue minivan El Karawan had told Hitomi to look for, and now the minivan exploding. Kano was sure this man had known how all of these tied together. But now, the key to solving the case was gone for good. Damn, we are just running in circles around this. Jesus. Kano tried to get information from a man who was caught in the explosion. If Minorikawa hadn't been caught in the blast, things would have gone differently. Somebody shouts something, and depending on what they shout, both Kano and Minorikawa's fates may change. Okay, at 15:30. Okay, so that's what Achi says. Okay, so this is just... We didn't really find anything by looking for the minivan. Alright, my bad. Achi switched over to a different camera. He continued switching views, scanning the streets of Shibuya, but there was no sign of a blue minivan anywhere. Mind you, your twin sister got kidnapped and you were forced to get involved in all of that, and then you learned she somehow got amnesia and was just doing mascot work to buy some overpriced necklace. That is my new light novel series. Still, they remain glued to the monitor. Alright, okay, so this is... So this should be the same based on what... and up until the point where Achi can yell again. Oh, can we jump out of this to Maria? We can jump out of this to... Okay, so we found where the Maria jump is. Okay, and we need to change what Achi says at this point, right?
Okay, so we can just jump ahead here now. Here we go. If we yell her name. That'll get their attention. Hitome! Wait! Archie shouted. But she didn't appear to hear his cries. The hope of rescuing her sister had driven all else from her mind. Archie started to run after her. Right, and this is the same again. Please tell me we got... She slipped out. Oh, yep, this is going to be the same. And now we get awesome more FMV stuff. I love it. Okay, so this should fix the rest of that stuff. This is so hard to keep track of. Right, Hitomi and Kanon. Right, okay, that leads to the to be continued. Does that change Kano? It does change what happens to Kano. Yep. Okay. Are we going to watch this for the third time? Yeah? Give it to me for the third time. Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes. More of this. I love just how disappointed Stanley looks. He's just like, "Aw." He doesn't look bad. It just makes him look like, "Aw, I left the furnace." Oh wait, was that Minorikawa in the background of that last shot there? Yeah, that is Minorikawa in the background of that last shot. Huh. Because he had the jacket and the computer case. And then Kano saw flames. This hadn't been an accident. Someone had set off an explosion. Right, okay, yep, this is the same. And then, yep, there's someone inside. Okay. Okay, we're making progress here. God, this one is so frustrating. Okay. Okay, so where can we jump to out of here? Okay, so we can get to Minorikawa. Cool. Hitomi, wait! As he ran along Koa and Dori after Miku, Minorikawa heard someone shout out a familiar name. Hitomi. It was a pretty common name. Ordinarily, he wouldn't have given it a second thought, but he remembered that one of the Miss Midoriyama winners was named Hitomi Asawa. That made him curious. A moment later, he heard a cell phone ringtone. He immediately recognized it as an Ayakamiki song. His reporter's instincts tingled. He stopped to take a look around, and one young woman caught his eye almost immediately. He couldn't assume that any pretty girl he saw was Miss Midoriyama. After all, it'd be a little too convenient if he just so happened to run into her now. Still, it didn't cost him anything to ask, "Are you Hitomi Osawa?" He might as well at least check. But to his own surprise, he hesitated in embarrassment. He'd never been too embarrassed to ask a question before. He didn't get a chance to contemplate that realization. And then Minorikawa fucking dies. A massive fiery blast knocked him from his feet. A deafening roar set his head throbbing. What was that? What was going on? He lay in a daze on the ground, trying to wrap his mind around what had just happened. Behind him, there was a minivan fiercely ablaze. A minivan, an explosion. The first thing to pop into his mind was the attempted bioterrorist attack on Kasumi Gaseki 2 years earlier. An unoccupied minivan had exploded outside the MPD station, and afterward a device meant to scatter a dangerous biological agent had been discovered near the subway. In the end, no one had been harmed, but there were rumors that the government had paid a terrorist organization a hefty sum to keep it that way.
Right now, Minorikawa was a stone's throw from the Shibuya precinct. Could this be a repeat of the Kasumigaseki attack? The entire area was in an uproar. People were running around in panic. Minorikawa could see several injured people lying on the ground unmoving. And yet, despite the gravity of the situation, numerous onlookers were casually taking photos with their cell phones. Minorikawa got to his feet, then went to try to get everyone away from the scene of the explosion. You guys, get back! There could be another bomb! Minorikawa looked around as he pushed back the crowd. He was getting the strong whiff of a scoop. He needed to write this copy ASAP, but he couldn't just turn his back on the situation now. Two young men were strolling toward the burning vehicle. They had the look of juvenile delinquents. Heck, is this for real? Ain't this dangerous, like for serious? The pair tried to find an optimal vantage point. Hey! Minorikawa snapped. Don't get any closer. Love how they just straight up say the same thing as the tip on Kano's route, but phrased slightly more uncertainly. Right? Because they know different things. It's a good little touch. He spread his arms wide to hold them back. The young men came into a halt, but otherwise paid him no heed. This is bad. This is for real bad. Think it's a terrorist thing? Yo, get out your phone. Come on. But, like, do you think this is a terrorist thing? Dude, shut up. Just hurry up and call Susumu. The taller of the two, dressed in red, was ordering around his blue-clad companion. Huh? The boy in blue huffed. Man, do it yourself. Say what now? Bitch, it ain't no time to get yourself all worked up. Minorikawa stood there, arms still held wide, getting more and more annoyed at their back and forth. Yo, just make the call, man. The young fellow in red scowled. He wasn't going to back down. Huh? Yo, what difference does it make if I do it or you do it? Doesn't make any difference, so don't matter if you do it. Yeah, right, it don't matter, so in that case, you do it. Look, I'm telling you just to make the damn call. And I'm telling you just to take it your damn self. Enough of this already. Minorikawa opened his mouth to tell them off. And the young man in red spoke again. Dude, the goods from over at Endo Electronics are gone. You gotta let Susumu know. The name Endo Electronics caught Minorikawa's attention. Yeah, but ain't that all Achi dude's fault for getting all huffy at us? I mean, it was Kiryu who told us to go find the Endo storehouse. Yeah, but Susumu didn't like dealing in stolen goods. Says it dirties the SOS name. Well, what a coincidence. Looked like these two were SOS members. Hey! Minorikawa called out. You two! He finally succeeded in getting their attention. Where's this Susumu fellow? I'd like to talk to him. He had no idea who Susumu was, having only heard the name just now. Still, from the way these two were talking, it seemed clear he held some position of leadership. You think I'd tell you if I knew? The fellow in red snarled. Minorikawa kept his composure. Listen, you guys know the Tenryugumi? The Tenryugumi was a Yakuza syndicate that operated in Shibuya. Tenryugumi is an up-and-coming Yakuza syndicate that turned up on the scene 10 years ago. With the seemingly legitimate Takarada financing as its business front, the group offers monetary solutions for people in financial trouble, but those who accept their offers soon find that their troubles only grow and grow, embroiled in the conflict with the Kanto Shiramine Gumi, who have been long established in Shibuya. These street kids were sure to be unfamiliar with that name, if nothing else. I may not look it, but I'm pretty tight with the Tenryugumi, and maybe you two don't know it, but Susumu's been showing up at their office a lot lately. Susumu's been dealing with the Yakuza. Whoa, for real? Sweet! The two punks bought it completely. What's SOS using as their hangout these days? I've got a little something to discuss with Susumu. Right now it's this bar called Inferno. Minorikawa made a mental note of the name. Right, and Inferno is where exactly? The two young men suddenly looked distinctly uncomfortable. Oh, later! Yeah, I got a thing I gotta do too. Backing away, they took off through the crowd. Hey, wait up! They need to know where Inferno is. Oh, look at the background there with Achi carrying Hitomi away. Oh, God. But the pair had already vanished. Oh, I thought they were going to just leave it kind of implied and blurry, but that's really cool. Ambulances began arriving at the scene, and paramedics rushed out to tend to the wounded. Excuse me, would you mind answering a few questions? Minorikawa turned to see a man in a suit approach him, flashing his badge. Okay, so this is how we get back onto Kano. So a detective with questions for him, huh? How about you answer a few questions for me? Was this an accident or an attack? We still don't know many details. Let me rephrase that for you. This is a major incident, Minorikawa exclaimed. Huh? The detective looked pretty flummoxed. I've been around the block a few times, and I know all your police PR lingo, and when you start talking about the details, that is 100% indicative of a major incident. Brushing aside Minorikawa's remark, the detective tried another question. Did you happen to notice anything unusual prior to the explosion? Unusual? Minorikawa thought back to the moments before the minivan blew up. Now that you mentioned it, I think I heard cell phone ringtone. The detective tilted his head. A ringtone?
No, never mind, forget that. There's no way the ringtone on someone's phone would be audible through all that. Minorikawa struck the thought from his own mind as he said it. In all likelihood, he'd simply associated the ringtone with the explosion simply because he had heard. One had happened right before the other. Kano! A large-statured Caucasian man had called out to the detective. Evidently, the detective's name was Kano. Thank you for cooperation, he said with a bow. And then he ran over. All right, well, now at least we unlocked the end of Kano's route. Mr. Minorikawa! Minorikawa turned at a female voice behind him. He found Miku standing there. She looked like she'd been crying. Miku? About earlier. He trailed off, searching for an apology. It's okay, that doesn't matter right now. Miku looked around the scene. Minorikawa followed her gaze. Something big went down here, he said. I know, she exclaimed. The explosion. I saw it happen with my own eyes. You what? Miku looked around nervously. Are you all right? He asked her. You're not hurt, are you? I'm okay. My ears are still ringing a bit, is all. Good. So what did you see at the time of the explosion? Miku assumed a thoughtful expression. There was this girl who was running toward the minivan. Then I think they saw this other Middle Eastern girl suddenly make a dive for her. And then the van just exploded. Wait, hold on, Minorikawa said. So if I'm getting this right, it sounds like this Middle Eastern girl saved the girl who was running up to the van? Miku nodded. Just then, Minorikawa's phone chimed. He received an email. It was from Chiaki. Mr. Mino, are you still working on your copy? He checked his watch. At this point, the 4 o'clock deadline was barely 20 minutes away. Nonetheless, he decided to stay at the bomb scene. He could definitely smell a scoop here. He was sure of it. Even if he couldn't get his 6 pages done by 4, landing a major scoop should be enough to persuade the loan company. Minorikawa jotted his phone number down and handed it to Miku. I'll make things up to you, he said. Give me a call later. Miku took the scrap of paper, puzzled. If you're looking for an Aiki Jujutsu Jojo, I know a few. At that, her face lit up. Minorikawa decided to process the scene for clues. As he wandered around, he caught sight of Detective Kano and his Caucasian colleague headed down an alley. What's that I smell? Something pretty damn fishy. If they were slipping away for a private conversation, maybe there was some way he could listen in. Minorikawa hurried into one of the buildings that bordered the alley. He looked around and found a public bathroom upstairs on the alley side of the building. Hoping beyond hope, he slipped up to the bathroom window. Voices outside. He held his breath and listened. Those international criminals you mentioned? Kano's words were faint, but he could make them out. Minorikawa did a little fist bump. Correct. Roughly 8 hours ago, they infected Maria Osawa with the UA virus. So, that's kind of what we assumed this was building up to, but still, fuck! And then they let her loose somewhere in Shibuya. Hold on. By UA, you mean... The discussion involved some terms Minorikawa wasn't familiar with. He focused all his mental energy on what the two were saying. This is a killer virus with a 100% mortality rate once it takes hold. 100%, Minorikawa muttered to himself. The shock caused him to unclench the fist he didn't realize he'd made. This wasn't just an interesting conversation. It was monumental. It has an incubation period of 12 hours. In another 4 hours, Maria Osawa will go symptomatic. After that, she'll begin spreading the virus through the city. It's capable of airborne transmission. If we don't administer Kenji Osawa's antiviral before she develops symptoms. Yes? Everyone in Shibuya is going to die. Minorikawa felt goosebumps rise all over his body. If they were talking about a virus in Kenji Osawa, they could only mean that Kenji Osawa. He recalled what Osawa had said earlier about the power balance of the world being at stake. There was no doubt about it. This was a tremendous scoop. Well, then we need to find Maria Osawa and get the antiviral to her as soon as possible. Just calm down. There's more to the story than... Oh, it's starting to leak out. The door swung open loudly, and someone came barging into the bathroom. Ah! It was Yanagashita. Why him again, and why here of all places? Oh, I'm leaking here. Yanagashita was on the verge of hysterics. His voice must have been audible outside. Kano and his companion went to take their discussion elsewhere. They'd just been getting to the good part. You son of a bitch! Enraged, Minorikawa grabbed Yanagashita and tossed him to the floor. I'm leaking! Shut your mouth! He put all of his strength into an ankle hold and gave it a good twist. Professional wrestling technique that involves grabbing an opponent by the ankle. Being caught up like this can be extremely painful. It also puts a lot of pressure on the lower body. And if you're already fighting the urge to urinate, well... Ah! Yanagashita wailed. Ah! Minorikawa left the idiot blubbering in the bathroom and hurried out of the building. He hadn't heard the whole discussion, but he had a scoop on his hands anyway. This would be a tremendous score for Heaven Publishing, enough to let the company rebuild. He was certain of it. And if I'm the one saying it, it's gotta be true. He ran along. Minorikawa tried to plan his next steps. First, he had to get back to the editing office. He'd explain the situation to the people from the loan company. Then he'd go find that paperwork for Osawa and have Chiaki check his copy. And then after that... Okay, so he still had a lot of things he needed to do. He swatted himself on both cheeks to get himself psyched up. His phone rang. It was Chiaki.
Mr. Mino, something terrible has happened.
Chiaki's voice was a broken yelp. Whoa, calm down.
Over on Koindori, this minivan exploded.
Yeah, I'm well aware. Thank you to that. I got a big scoop and Chiaki cut him off.
Just now I got a call from Mr. Toyama's daughter, Hana.
This time Minorikawa waited for her to finish. He had a sinking feeling.
She said that Mr. Toyama was in there. It was a suicide.
Minorikawa's knees buckled. Tell me you're joking.
No, I mean, the van explosion is all over the news, and Hana was in tears on the phone, and... Mr. Mino? Mr. Mino, are you still there?
Toyama had... killed himself? Shibuya 428. What? No, this isn't that kind of VN. Also Shibuya 428. Minorikawa felt the energy drain from his body. To be continued. All right, we're making strides here. We got to be close to wrapping up the rest of this hour block here. So let me see how much more we got to do to. Okay. So from there, that jumped us over to Minorikawa. Minorikawa can jump us over to Kano. Watcha. Several people were on the ground nearby, evidently injured by the explosion. A girl in a hoodie was crouched among them, doing her best to tend to their injuries. The girl is Miku Morita. While walking along, upset at Minorikawa for not introducing her to an Aiki Jiu-Jitsu dojo, she happened to cross the aftermath of the minivan explosion. Unable to stand idly when faced with such horrific scene, she pitched in as best she could to help the wounded. And this will let us jump back to Minorikawa, but that's a useless one, so we don't need to worry about that. Kano recognized her as the girl he talked to earlier during the traffic jam. Police, he announced. Get back, let me handle this. The girl was visibly relieved.
Help her,
she said. She pointed to a figure lying on the sidewalk a short distance from the burning minivan. It was a Middle Eastern girl. She appeared to be unconscious. I need some water.
I think she got hurt rescuing another girl about college age,
the girl in the hoodie said. A college-aged girl? That might be Hitomi. What happened to the girl she saved? Kano asked. The Good Samaritan looked around.
Huh, where'd she go?
The rescuee had disappeared.
This girl here.
The girl in the hoodie gestured toward the fallen girl.
I can't believe how fast she was.
She spoke with a hint of awe.
The way she moved to get to that other girl, she was on a level way beyond mine.
Kano took another look at the injured girl. Her figure looked rather delicate. It was hard to believe she was capable of such great feats of athleticism. He started toward her, but Stanley stepped ahead of him. Leave this one to me, he said. His expression was unusually stern, even for him. Do you know her? Kano asked. The American didn't answer as he checked the girl's pulse and then her pupils. Hey, Stanley, don't you have other things you should be doing? Stanley snapped. Fine, then. Kano decided to collect some eyewitness accounts. Oh, gosh. What time is it? It's almost 3. Oh, good. Patrol cars and ambulances arrived at the scene in a steady stream. Once the vehicle fire was under control, things gradually began to calm down. Several officers worked to cover the area around the burned minivan with a blue tarp. Kano got his questioning underway, starting by flashing his badge at a man near the front of the crowd. Excuse me, would you mind answering a few questions? The man puffed himself up. How about you answer a few questions for me? Was this an accident or an attack? We still don't know many details, Kano admitted. The man shoved his finger in Kano's face. Let me rephrase that for you. This is a major incident. Huh? I've been around the block a few times, and I know all your police PR lingo, and when you start talking about the details, that is 100% indicative of a major incident. I sure picked the wrong guy to try and talk to. Stifling his frustration, Kano continued his questioning. Did you happen to notice anything unusual prior to the explosion? Unusual? Huh, now that you mention it, I think I heard a cell phone ringtone. Ringtone? No, never mind, forget that. There's no way the ringtone on someone's phone would be audible through all that. The man was probably right, but somehow the idea nagged at Kano. He jotted down a note in his pad. Kano! It was Stanley. Perfect timing. Thank you for your cooperation, Kano told the man, then hurried on over his way. Stanley stepped in close enough to whisper. Who was that guy? An eyewitness to the explosion, apparently. Did he have any info? He said he heard a cell phone ringtone at the time of the explosion. Not sure if that's significant, though. Stanley stood silently for a moment, thinking. What about that girl? Kano asked. Has she woken up? No. I'm going to drive her to the hospital. Huh? Why do that yourself? Just look around, Stanley said. He cast his eyes out over the scene. There were still many injured people lying on the roadside. It seemed as the authorities hadn't sent enough ambulances. But isn't your car back in Mariamacho? Kano asked. Under the circumstances, I think it makes sense for me to go back for it, Stanley replied coolly. Besides, I have a few things I would like to ask her. Kano was curious. You do? He asked. Stanley's cell rang. Yes? Stanley answered the phone in English. As he listened, his demeanor changed. The blood drained from his face, and his hand began to tremble slightly as he gripped the phone. Kano had never seen him this shaken up. You got it, Stanley said at last. He hung up the phone and let out a sigh. What is it? Kano asked. Stanley headed into an alley without responding. Kano hurried after him. Once they were out of earshot of the crowd, Stanley finally spoke. That call right now was from Gordon, my superior. He broke off there and for a long while was silent. He appeared to be struggling with some strong emotion. If it's that difficult to talk about, you don't have to. No, Stanley said. I should tell you this. He braced himself before continuing. We were contacted on our end by the mastermind of this plot. Those international criminals you mentioned? Correct. Roughly 8 hours ago, they infected Maria Osawa with the UA virus. Then they let her loose somewhere in Shibuya. Hold on. By UA, you mean... Kano thought back to his earlier conversation with Stanley. These criminals were trying to get their hands on a new drug. An antiviral drug developed by Kenji Osawa that had been shown to be effective against the UA virus. Stanley hesitated before continuing. This is a killer virus with a 100% mortality rate once it takes hold. Kenji Osawa's antiviral is our only means of combating it. Wait, why am I making him mispronounce the other words? A mortality rate of 100%. It has an incubation period of 12 hours. In another 4 hours, Maria Osawa will go symptomatic. After that, she'll begin spreading the virus throughout the city. It's capable of airborne transmission. Following the onset of symptoms, individuals infected with the UA virus bleed from the lungs, and the virus is readily released into the air via coughing. The UA virus is highly resilient in the open air and can survive even after saliva or other fluids have evaporated. Simply getting within 2 meters of a symptomatic patient is said to carry a high risk of infection. Bodily fluids from deceased patients carry an especially high concentration of the virus, and anything contaminated with such fluids must be thoroughly sterilized before it is safe. Stanley nodded. If we don't administer Kenji Osawa's antiviral before she develops symptoms. Yes? Kano's voice was trembling now. Stanley spoke with complete certainty. Everyone in Shibuya is going to die. Well, then we need to find Maria Osawa and get the antiviral to her as soon as possible, Kano said, panicking. Stanley remained cool. Just calm down. There's more to the story than... Stanley was interrupted by a strange sound from the upper floors of a nearby building. Unsure of what it was, the two men hurriedly relocated. They paused when they came to a vacant lot. The place was deserted,
No need to worry about being overheard here. You said there was more to the story? Kano prompted. The antiviral in question is stored in Kenji Osawa's laboratory. The lab is protected by a sophisticated security system and apparently the storage area where the drug is kept requires fingerprint authentication from both Osawa and Tanaka. What? But Tanaka is... Kano couldn't help but gasp. Tanaka was currently a fugitive, the prime suspect in the kidnapping case. There was no chance of getting any fingerprint authorization from him at this stage. Is there any other way to get in? Kano asked. The door can also be unlocked via password in the place of the fingerprint scanner, but we'd still need to know what Tanaka chose for his password. No. In any event, Stanley said, it's still essential that we track down and rescue Maria. But, he went on, his voice grave, even if we get Maria to safety, the mastermind is now in possession of the UA virus. If they want to, they can unleash a bioterrorist attack on Shibuya at any time. To put it bluntly, the lives of every man, woman, and child in the city are now in their hands. Kano felt a pulse of fear deep enough to give him vertigo. He slowly tilted his head and gazed at the sky, vast and blue as always. There had to be tens of thousands of people in Shibuya right now. Rumi and Shizuo were among them. And they might be all dead within a day. It felt so unreal, Kano's mind almost couldn't process it. With an effort of will, he shook himself out of his daze. Now was no time to waver. We have to try, he said. In the next 4 hours, we need to find Maria Osawa and figure out a way to stop this mastermind and the UA virus. The words were as much for himself as they were for his companion. Let's do this, Stanley. We might not always see eye to eye, but together, I feel like you and I can find a way. But Stanley averted his gaze. My job here is simply to apprehend the mastermind. Kano felt a resurgence of his earlier anger at Stanley. Once again, he was putting his duties above human life. I'm sorry. Stanley's voice was a quiet mutter. You should get away from Shibuya as soon as possible, Kano. Kano hadn't imagined that the American would ever be worried for him. I appreciate the warning, he said, but I'm seeing this through to the end. This isn't the sort of thing you can solve with just an effort of willpower. Even so, giving up isn't the Japanese detective way. Stanley let out a nasal chuckle. Ha! Back to that again, are we? Same to you. Kano managed a tiny chuckle of his own. Listen, Stanley went on after a moment. This is just between you and me. The mastermind behind this kidnapping case is an arms dealer who goes by the name of Alpha Rad. An arms dealer. Beyond simply selling weapons, illegal arms dealers are also frequently involved in smuggling weapons or unlawfully obtained through deals with government or military contacts. In recent years, such enterprises have become increasingly globalized. Some dealers from smuggling networks that also deal in money laundering, drug trafficking, and more. I'm committing to this now. Alpha Rad. The attempted bioterrorist attack on Kasumigaseki, a hotel bombing in Chicago. Alpha Rad had a hand in all of them. What do you know about this criminal? Kano asked. Stanley's expression grew even darker. Alpha Rad's signature is extremely meticulous planning, but I don't mean meticulous in the same way I might normally think of it. Their plans are perfectly imperfect. Do you get what I mean? Kano shook his head. Alpha Rad deliberately engineers accidents to make things complicated and unpredictable. It is difficult to get a good grasp of what is going on when the situation seems to be falling apart. People tend not to consider that coincidental mishaps might be anything but. In the end, they don't even realize that they were playing right into the mastermind's hands all along. Kano could hear the intensity in Stanley's voice. I'm afraid that is all I can say. Stanley held out his right hand. I'll see you around, Kano, if we're still alive. If we're still alive. Kano let that sink in for a moment. Huh, nah, I'll shake your hand after we finish this case. With a slight smile, Stanley withdrew his hand. Then the two bumped fists instead. Hell yeah! That's a good shot, right? That one's going in the good shot bank. All right, we'll meet again, Kano. What do you know about this criminal? I know he has almost 3 million subscribers. Is that what they call buyers in the arms dealing business nowadays? We'll meet again, Kano. I'm sure of it. Yeah, I'll see you then.
I also know he got to start primarily doing Super Smash Brothers videos for the Nintendo Wii U. No sooner had Stanley departed than Kuze's voice came in over the wireless. Attention all units. As of now, further investigation on the kidnapping case is suspended. The director's voice sounded strangely cold. I repeat, as of now, further investigation on the kidnapping case is suspended. Wait, hold on, sir, Kano shouted. What is it, Kano? Could you let us know why? We've received information that Maria Osawa has been infected with an unknown virus and has been released somewhere in Shibuya. That matched up with what Stanley had said earlier. An anti-bioterrorism security force will probably be deployed in Shibuya. Bioterrorism, if you didn't know, is terrorism involving biological agents such as bacteria or viruses. Biological weapons are easier to acquire and transport than nuclear weapons, and because they rely on an organism's natural ability to proliferate or infect, they can yield powerful results for low effort. For these reasons, recent years have seen widespread apprehension about the possibility that such weapons might be used by terrorists. In the event that a bioterrorist attack occurred in Japan, temporary quarantine and decontamination facilities would be set up in the area affected. Wow! YouTube, but if you subscribe to someone, you get free guns. It's just America, my friend. This is no longer a simple kidnapping case. Our part in this is finished. No, it's not! We haven't managed to resolve anything! Kano, I assure you everyone else feels the same as you do. Kuze's voice had a cautionary tone. They're still performing the autopsy on the body found in the blue minivan that exploded. I'll let you know once we have a positive ID. Kuze out. Director! But the line had already gone dead. Vantan. It's my favorite place. Left at a loss, Kano gazed out at the cityscape. The sight of the bombed vehicle had calmed down briefly, but now that the news networks had begun reporting, the herd of onlookers was growing. There was also a sizable crowd gathered outside at a large home electronics store. The large LCD televisions on display were showing a press conference being held by the governor of Tokyo. Kano might learn something new about the case. He decided to watch the broadcast. Working closely with the administration, we are keeping a careful eye on the situation as it develops. The governor's expression was solemn as he spoke. The moment he finished his statement, the reporters bombarded him with questions. This seems similar to the bioterrorist attack on Kasumigaseki 2 years ago. Is there any possible connection? What countermeasures do we have in the event that Shibuya is the target of bioterrorism? The governor was visibly disconcerted. If this does turn out to be a bioterrorist attack, we will establish emergency shelters with a large-scale quarantine station at Yoyogi Park. However, there are still many details that remain unknown. The politician was clearly struggling to maintain his composure. Can you comment on the rumors that we're hearing that Shibuya might be blockaded off? Don't be ridiculous, the governor barked. What outlet are you with? You trying to start a panic when we don't even know all the details? Besides, it wouldn't even be possible to blockade the whole of Shibuya. The press conference continued, the governor and reporters locked in a belligerent back and forth. Kano left the electronics store and headed for the cafe where Rumi and Shizuo were waiting. He had to tell them both to get far away from Shibuya. The Café Lautrec seemed quiet when Kano arrived. Shizuo was sitting alone. Kano scanned the establishment but didn't see Rumi anywhere. One of the staff greeted him.
Welcome, just one, sir?
No, I'm meeting someone, actually.
Of course, sir.
The hostess smiled and then went on her way. Shizuo was glaring at him. Kano walked over to him and bowed deeply. It's a pleasure to meet you, sir. I'm Shinya Kano. Yo, Will Barron! How's it going? It is going really well. We're starting to get to like the final act of this game. Finally had a moment to breathe during work. Oh, I'm sorry work was that hard on you, but glad you took a moment. You look like even more of a knuckle dragger than I thought. Shizuo maintained his appraising stare. Rumi had something she needed to do, so she stepped away for a while, he said after a long moment. Kano sat down across from him. There was a laptop computer open on the table. Right now, the laptop is in sleep mode, and there's nothing on the monitor, but just before Kano came in, Shizuo was browsing an internet forum. He takes his user handle from the nickname for the apples he grows on his own farm, which are pretty little things, and nearly as sweet as honey. Oh, no. Oh, no. That's... okay. The waitress came by to take Kano's order, so he asked for an iced coffee. What are you using the computer for? Kano asked. I'm on the internet. Shizuo's voice was low and gruff. This cafe has an internet connection? May as well start with a little small talk. Gotta love that 2008 small talk right there.
So what? Again, Shizuo glared at Kano. I just... The words wouldn't come. No, actually, this is no time to be making idle chit-chat. If they got infected with the virus, Rumi and Shizuo might die. Look, please, you need to leave Shibuya right away. Shizuo's face contorted with confusion. What are you talking about? Why? Kano wasn't sure if he should tell the truth or not. He was strictly prohibited from discussing a case with anyone outside the department. As a former policeman himself, Shizuo ought to understand full well the secrecy an investigation required. But it wasn't like he just up and leave town without a good reason. Please listen, Kano said. It is very important that you go, though I'm not at liberty to tell you why. Even if this was Rumi's father, Kano couldn't bring himself to leak secret information. His mind spun with regret. Huh. Well, I don't need your say-so, Shizuo huffed. I'm sick of this town anyway. Kano was a bit relieved to hear that. Does this have something to do with the case you're working? Huh? You're telling me to leave Shibuya. Does that have something to do with your case? Yes, Kano admitted. So why don't you run off with Rumi then? Shizuo's tone was frank. Well, I mean... When Kano didn't have an answer handy, Shizuo let out a single, heavy sigh. Is your work important to you? He asked. Kano hesitated. Is it more important than Rumi? Well... Again, Shizuo cut Kano off as he waffled over how to answer. Me? I used to put my work before my family. There was no question in my mind that combating society's ills and solving cases was worth any price. And because of that, I did some pretty reckless things. I almost wound up dead more than once. Shizuo paused, a forlorn look in his eyes. My wife did nothing but worry about me, so much that I didn't even realize when she'd worried herself sick. I was so caught up in my work that I wasn't even there for her when she finally passed away. It was so very absurd of me. The waitress came by and set Kano's iced coffee on the table. It sat there, untouched, until Shizuo looked at it pointedly. With a tiny nod, Kano brought the cup to his lips. The bittersweet liquid was a balm to his parched throat. Speaking of which... I told Rumi the same story, Shizuo continued. But I didn't tell her how absurd it was. I told her that her father only did what he had to do. He took a sip from his glass of water. Rumi, she's very much like her mother used to be. Their personalities are almost identical, and I don't want her to suffer the same way my wife did. Shizuo's fist clenched in his lap. What was it that made you become a detective in the first place, he asked. Well, at first I got the job because I thought it would make Rumi happy. And then I guess I also thought because I thought it'd make you like me, sir. It was the truth, but Shizuo simply chuckled. If your goal is to get me to like you, you may as well give up now. I'm sorry, sir, Kano said. I can't do that. Are you this stubborn around Rumi? Shizuo grumbled. I love your daughter, sir. I want to keep her safe and to make her happy. And why is that? Whenever I think about her, I just feel so amazing. I'm sure that you or anyone can empathize with that. Everyone has someone they want to protect who makes them feel that good. It's an admirable thing wanting to be a detective and protect the happiness of the people, but that doesn't mean you need to ignore your own happiness in the process. What you say may be true, sir. Earlier today, my partner was stabbed, and today's his wife's birthday. Shizuo arched his brow. Is he going to make it? We're not sure yet. Last I knew, he was in critical condition. And this is why I keep saying that the life of a detective is... Shizuo's words trailed off into a lamenting murmur. Even so, Kano was unmoved. Dick dictum number 1. Never lose sight of what you're supposed to protect. Ever. What's that? Something that a senior detective I admire very much said. It's the fundamental guiding principle I've stuck to as a detective. But I was wrong about the real meaning behind it. My partner was stabbed. There are people I want to rescue. So much has happened, and now I finally understand what those words mean. When you see someone in trouble, you help them. That's not something a good detective does. That's something a good person does. Kano took a good, long look at Shizuo's face. He had surprised himself, finding the words to speak his feelings so clearly, and he wondered what effect that might have had on the older man. I'm sure that from your perspective, as my future father-in-law, my being a detective means I'm putting my life on the line, but that's not entirely true. I can only be myself. This is the kind of person I am. I care about helping people. Even if I were a baker or a brewer or a bookseller, I'd still act the same way. You're being ridiculous. A baker and a detective don't assume anywhere near the same risks. I suppose that's true. Kano fussed with his hair sheepishly. Huh, Shizuo grumbled. I think I see what kind of man you are now. He sounded oddly defeated. Which is why now is no time to just futz around. Kano sat up straighter at Shizuo's weighty tone. A detective needs more than just passion. A detective can't solve all of his problems with just sheer determination alone. But at the same time, he needs more than just the ability to coldly assess a situation. He needs the conviction to stick to a case when it might otherwise seem prudent to give up. There was something new in Shizuo's expression now, and a gleam in his eyes that hadn't been there before. Heart-wrenching scene about a father not wanting his daughter to worry herself to death. Kano. So about my dick diary. You're fucking what? Kano almost felt like he was being sermonized to by a senior officer. You got that? You need a cool mind, but a fiery spirit. A detective without both of those is worth nothing. Do you mind if I write that down in my notebook here? Look, Shizuo said, sounding suddenly embarrassed. Aren't you in a hurry? Don't you have to get back to your case? Yes, and sir, please, I need you and your daughter to leave Shibuya right away. Yeah, I hear ya. Kano conjured up Rumi's face in his mind. There was a chance he might never see her again. He forced the thought away as best he could. By the way, if I may ask, Shizuo said, what was it about Rumi that made you fall in love with her? What? Where's this coming from all of a sudden? Was it her looks? No, it was just that, Kano found himself tongue-tied again. I mean, she is pretty cute, even if this is my own daughter I'm talking about. Shizuo shocked him by grinning from ear to ear. Well, yes, she sure is, Kano replied, but it's more than just that. She's also very sweet and kind-hearted. She is, isn't she? Yeah, she really is. And for the first time, Kano and Shizuo smiled at one another. You're a man who lets his emotions show on his face, Shizuo said. And for a detective, that's not so bad. Thank you, sir, Kano said. He bowed at Shizuo as he stood up from his seat. Never lose sight of what you're supposed to protect, huh? I like that. Wise words indeed. Kano turned to look back and then bowed deeply to Shizuo one last time. If I had a daughter and the person who wants to marry her started telling me about his dick diary, I would simply know that she was in good hands. Exactly. Yo! It's the scramblem. The scramble. The ability to coldly assess a situation. Kano knew what he needed to do. There was one thing that was nagging him. No matter how hard he thought about it, it still didn't add up. Why would Tatano let Al-Karawan go free? He needed to get back to the precinct and get the truth from Al-Karawan firsthand. As he walked along, he considered what he did not know about the facts of the case. Just what sort of plan had Al-Farad put into motion here? It seemed that Tanaka and Osawa held the keys to understanding it. There had been relay handoffs of the phony attaché case, a relay that Tanaka had been complicit in. Then there was Hitomi missing, carrying the antiviral. Osawa had confirmed that himself. So that's how we jump back to Osawa, finally. Kano was starting to form a vague picture of what Al-Farad was up to. If the mastermind's goal was to acquire the antiviral, then obtaining the cooperation of Osawa and Tanaka was vital to that plan. After all, their fingerprint verification was required to physically access the drug. In order to overcome that hurdle, Al-Farad had presumably managed to win over Tanaka somehow, and had then kidnapped Maria Osawa to provide leverage against her father. No doubt that was how they'd gotten Hitomi to take the antiviral with her to Hachiko. While the police were distracted by following the attaché case, Al-Farad would then take the antiviral from Hitomi. That was the general plan, as far as Kano could surmise. Just then, a call from Kuze came in over the wireless. We've identified the body found inside the blown-up minivan. Kano's hand tingled as it gripped the wireless. Mamoru Tanaka, male, 40 years old, an employee of Akoshi Pharmaceutical. Positive ID was obtained from the subject's personal belongings. Oh shit! That's the other person they needed in order to get the vaccine. Oh fuck! What? Kano gasped. If Tanaka was dead, it would now be almost impossible to access the antiviral drug in the laboratory. At this point, the only antiviral they had any chance of obtaining was whatever Hitomi was carrying. Kano thought back to what Stanley had said earlier. Even if we get Maria to safety, the mastermind is still in possession of the Yua virus.
If they want to, they can simply unleash a bioterrorist attack on Shibuya at any time. To put it bluntly, the lives of every man, woman, and child in the city are in their hands. Oh, fuck! No! A chill ran down Kano's spine. If someone did release the UA virus, there would be no way to stop it from spreading. If Alpha Rad really was planning a bioterror attack, Shibuya would well and truly become a city of the dead. Couldn't help but feel that the whole department was playing right into Alpha Rad's hands. Kano staggered, physically stricken by the realization of just how terrifying a foe they were up against. I know it's a bit, but Alpha Rad would generally make a great name for a bioterrorist arm dealer in, say, a cyberpunk setting. It would! It would. It absolutely would. The thing is, I can't look at it and read Alphard. Like, I just, my eyes see that collection of letters, and they're like, you have YouTube poisoning. And I'm like, I know I have YouTube poisoning. Thank you. I work there. Okay. So now we can jump over and continue Osawa's story at the end here. Oh, we're getting close to the end of the stream here, so we'll see where we are when we finish Osawa's route for this hour. Boop. Oh, the divorce gap. Before the news was shared with the Osawas, the members of the investigation team quietly briefed Detective Kajawara. Osawa and I sat on the sofa of the far side of the room, watching. They could see Kajawara go pale. He wiped the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief several times. Bad news, Osawa thought. Mr. Osawa, ma'am? Kajawara shuffled his way over to them at last. We've just gotten word from headquarters. Right now, the task force is in an uproar after a change of direction from the higher-ups. The detectives who were on the scene had been ordered to discontinue the kidnapping investigation. Okay, but we don't need to go back to Kano. That one's bait, right? Yeah, Kano's fine. That one's bait. He hesitated ominously. Osawa braced himself. Please. Oh, please, let's hear it. It would seem that your daughter Maria is safe. What? Osawa felt an unexpected surge of relief. Do you mean it? The case has been solved? Added I. For a moment, they almost sounded like a happily married couple. It was only the stern look on Kajawara's face that gave them pause. However, as of yet, we do not have her in custody. I'm not sure I understand, Osawa said. You know she's alive, but you don't have her? How? Deep furrows appeared in Kajawara's forehead. I'm sorry, sir. The information we've received from up top is, complicated. Which is why the camera is currently staring on my flat ass. We've confirmed that she was able to escape confinement. It's just... The detective gave every appearance of holding something back. If there's something you need to tell us, then just say it, Osawa told him. It would seem that Maria has been infected with a virus. Infected? Osawa felt as if a taloned claw had just clutched his heart. It's not one I've ever heard of before, but... Apparently, it's called the UA virus. Osawa's vision went dark. He felt as if he'd plunged into a black void of despair. Darling? I asked raspily. She didn't need to put her fears into words. Osawa felt them just as plainly as his own gut. You're an expert on virology, aren't you, Mr. Osawa? Kajawara said. Are you familiar with the UA virus? Osawa held up a hand to forestall further questions. There was no time for that. How many hours ago was she infected? He demanded. I wasn't told that much. Is that important to know, sir? Depending on when Maria was infected, we may or may not still be. Osawa trailed off abruptly as the reality of the situation struck home. This wasn't the same as when Hitomi had been infected. Right now, there was no way of getting Tanaka's cooperation, which meant there was no way of accessing the antiviral storage. In other words, getting the cure to Maria would be impossible. Osawa's head swam. Detective Kajawara, I beg of you. Your people need to catch Tanaka as soon as possible. I can't share the details, but if you don't, something terrible is going to happen. And just then, Kajawara's cell phone rang. He picked up quickly. What did you say? The detective's shout shattered the anxious silence that had fallen.
I shuddered visibly at the outburst. Kajawara nodded sharply, still listening. More creases formed in his forehead. Understood. I'll let them know. He hung up. All eyes were on him. That was headquarters. Osawa swallowed the lump in his throat. He could feel himself quaking all over. A minivan we believe belonged to the syndicate exploded near Jinan in Shibuya. A body was found amongst the burning wreckage of the vehicle. Who was it? Osawa interjected. Tell me! Please don't let it be Maria. Please don't let it be Hitomi. Kajawara took a deep breath before speaking. We've conclusively identified the remains as Mr. Tanaka's. No! The cry was visceral, almost bird-like. Osawa looked around in surprise. It was I. It's not true, you're lying! Her shrill screams reverberated through the room. Osawa felt like he wanted to scream, too. With Tanaka dead, there was no way to get to the antiviral. And we know why I is so. Because Tanaka was cheating on I. Or, you know, I was cheating on Osawa with Tanaka. Which meant that Maria was going to die. Oh, shit! Alright. I'm running out of steam, so let's take a break here. Or, not a break, we're ending the stream here. We don't have much more of this game left, I feel. I think like we have the rest of this block, and then there's one more block left after that. So what, we got almost all the to be continued. We only have Maria's to be continued left. How do we get over to her? That jumps to Minorikawa. That jumps to Minorikawa as well. Kano's route? Nope. From Minorikawa? Business suit? No. Here, this is how we get to Maria. You know what? We're so close to finishing off this block since we only have Maria's route left, and it just seems like everything else is done. Let's just finish off her thing. Alright, so we can hop over to... Boom! Shakalaka. Love how wild this game is. I know, it never stops. Eventually, I muster up the energy to start walking around town, heading nowhere in particular. And now we know that she's... oh, God. The billboard outside of a department store displays a poster of some female musician. She must be pretty popular because lots of passersby stop to take a good look. I catch sight of little Hana in front of the billboard. She's sewing something to a woman there, some colorful sheets of paper. Huh? The woman looks like a lot like the musician in the poster. Moreover, I have the feeling I've seen her someplace before. Where could I have seen her? Man, having amnesia really is a pain in the ass. I have no way of knowing whether I've forgotten something or had no memory of it in the first place. The woman looks through the papers Hana held out to her, nodding approvingly at each one, and I can hear her murmur with admiration. Hana! I wave as I scamper over to her. As I do, the woman abruptly hurries off. Hey, we meet again, I say. Hana just gives me a bored look. Who was that just now, I ask. I don't know. Hana quickly gathers up her belongings and starts walking briskly away. Oh, hey, wait up! I call out. The girl ignores me. She's moving at a jog now, heading from Spanish Hill towards Kowandori. Ah! As she steps out into Kowandori, she trips and falls down hard. The contents of her bag spill out onto the road. Oh, whoops. Catching up to her, I gather up the stuff that has fallen. What is this? There are poems written on the colored paper. Copies of a prose poem titled The False Monsoon. The poem delicately details the wavering emotions of an adolescent girl. Also, in a clever twist, if the text is read horizontally instead of vertically, it tells about a father's worries over his only daughter, who is now of marriageable age. Hana's genius will soon be discovered by Aya Kamiki, and she will go on to become a popular songwriter. Oh, that's good to know. A look of embarrassment crosses Hana's face, and she snatches the pages out of my hands. Don't touch those. Those are for sale. For sale? I'm selling poems that I wrote. Oh, wow, that's incredible. She looked surprised by the compliment. Incredible. My friends at school said they were dumb. That's not true. I only saw just a little now, but I thought it was a really good poem. You're just saying that. I've been out here in Shibuya for weeks trying to sell these, but the only person who bought one was that lady just now. Hana lets out a mournful sigh. Well, what are you out here selling poems for anyway? I thought maybe it'd help pay back our debts. Huh? Okay, that's not something I'd expect to hear from a little kid. My dad's in real deep, she continues. The topic makes me think of Mr. Yanagashita. I guess today's my day for meeting people mired in debt. And I'm only in elementary school, so I can't get a part-time job. Japan's Labor Standards Act prohibits the hiring of children under the age of 15. For certain jobs within the entertainment industry, however, employers can obtain permission from the Labor Standards Inspection Office for younger children to work. I'm impressed. She's so brave. She's maybe a little hard to approach, but she is just a kid after all. She's so brave, I just want to give her a hug. Oh, Hana. Oh, wait, hold on. Oh, Hana. I hear a strange wailing call from behind me. Startled, I turn around to see Mr. Toyama standing there, tears streaming from his eyes. Hana, I'm so sorry. I had no idea you were trying so hard to. Toyama rushes up to the girl. It's quite the emotional father-daughter reunion. Or at least that's how it looks until Hana slaps her father across the face with her bundle of papers. What was that for? Don't you give me that. I'm sick of all this running around. She delivers several more well-placed smacks with her little craft project. Okay, okay, Toyama says at last. I know you're upset, but I have to ask you for just one thing. Then we can see about getting through the day, yeah? Okay, but just one. I can't help but find this ordinary interaction kind of charming. You two get along really well, don't you? I say. Yep. No. The two give simultaneous contradictory answers. And then Hana sullenly starts to walk off with Toyama tottering after her. Such a weird little sight that I can't help but laugh. Well, later then. As soon as it switched to FMV, I knew what was going to happen. Like as soon as it switched, you know exactly what it's going over to. Oh, we're still in FMV mode. Oh shit. Further along Koen-dori, I come across a car on the roadside that's spectacularly aflame. A group of onlookers surrounds it in a confused uproar. It seems almost unreal, like I'm looking at a set for a TV show or something. I stand there staring into the flames. Huh? What is that? I can see something. The raging heat makes the air shimmer. The scent of dry sand fills my nose. A gust of searing wind tugs at my hair. Where am I? Decaying roads, decaying houses, a decaying city. And the people who live there. People who live. People who live. People who live. There's someone by my side. Someone is with me watching all of this. It's a girl. The person with me is a girl, slightly younger than me. She says something to me. Anna Isimi? Cat's Cradle. That's my voice now. Cat's Cradle? Whose voice was that? Oh, hold on, I'm getting them backwards. What's going on? Who am I talking to? Yeah, Cat's Cradle. I'm showing someone how to do a cat's cradle with string. But who? Who am I showing how to do a cat's cradle? Canaan. The word Canaan echoes in my head. Canaan? I utter the name aloud. The images floating through my mind are beginning to break up and vanish, but I feel like, for a brief moment at least, I caught a hold of the edges of some of my lost memories. That's right. Canaan. As soon as I say it, I'm filled with a powerful sense of duty. There's something I'm responsible for, something that I need to do, and if I don't, this Canaan person is going to be in grave danger. Calm down, just calm down. I'm pleading with myself now, fighting the impulse to take off running. If I did, where would I go? I have no idea what my destination or my goal even is. Please, please remember something. Please, please. I gaze out at the flames, practically praying now. Don't move. A voice is in my ear, and I feel something hard press against my back. I don't need to turn around to recognize whose voice it is. I thought you said you didn't have any business with... I did a little thinking, says the man with the cane, slowly. About how I might lure out Hitomi Osawa, see? I'm going to use you as bait. Oh, shit! To be continued. All right, I'm glad we finished that off. Boom. I believe this, and I believe next time we do this will be the final section of the game. This ain't the old SOS anymore. I'm gonna stop you. Oh, how touching. What do you mean you'll kill me? In order to minimize the spread of the virus. 1600 to 1700. Is that the last? No, that can't be the last of it. And we just got an achievement called Choice and Sacrifice. Damn! Alright, well I think that's where we'll end here for today. Thanks for coming out, everyone. I'm glad we're ending now because my voice is starting to go. I will be back streaming in about 8 hours from now when I'm going to be doing the midnight release stream for Three Hopes. So if you want to see me play more of the Black Eagles route in Three Hopes, I'll be doing that at midnight EST. I'll post about that when it happens, but also like 8 hours from whatever now is for you is about when I'll be starting. So look forward to that. That's what I got for you. I hope you have a good day. Or don't. I can't really stop you, but like I hope you do.